Everyone, and welcome to today's special City Council meeting. The Council will also be acting as the Library Board, the Housing Authority Board, and will be representing the Redevelopment Successor Agency. Today's meeting was originally scheduled for the 19th, which was this coming Thursday, but a number of the Council members are going to be in Sacramento on the 19th for a League of California Cities conference. So we moved the meeting to today, and I'm glad you all got the notice of the change of date and that you're here today. So at this time, if you would please stand and join our Mayor Pro Tem Ira Smotrich with the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cindy, would you do roll call, please?
Councilmember Hines?
Present.
Councilmember Hobart?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Smotrich? And Mayor Kite?
Here. Thank you.
I'm also here, Cindy.
Oh, Ted's here too. You didn't see him over here, but he's here.
Councilmember Weil?
Ted, it's okay. You can be here today.
Thank you.
Okay, today we're going to start with a number of presentations, and the first one is a proclamation honoring World Alzheimer's Awareness Month, and Ann Gimbel, the Regional Director of the Coachella Valley Chapter of Alzheimer's, is here today, so I'm going to come down and present the proclamation to her. And let's come over to where the proclamation is. And it's really a pleasure to have you here today representing Alzheimer's. And would you like to say a few words about the organization and why this is a special time for the group?
This is World Alzheimer's Month, Awareness Month for the entire world. And I think it's very important for us to stop and take a moment and realize what the association does. We have 16 support groups in the Valley, and we have lots of new programs. Please call and let us know. We have a very special program on Thursday evening at the Palm Desert Museum in Palm Desert, the little one coordinated with Palm Springs. And there are photos in the educational wing, 24 photos, and a panel discussion about treating Alzheimer's differently. So we hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, and I noticed today in the Desert Sun they're doing a 2-day series on Alzheimer's. Really very interesting. A couple of the facts that I noticed, it said by age 65 is when you start to recognize before. They said by age 85, about 50% of the people have some signs of Alzheimer's. So something that we really got to pay attention to and do what we can to overcome this in our lifetime, I would hope. We do have a proclamation for you. And just summing it up, it says Alzheimer's Awareness Month is this month, and September 21st is Alzheimer's Action Day. So we urge all the residents to support the Alzheimer's Association in their effort to stop this tragic disease. And we sign it, Richard W. Kite, Mayor, and on behalf of the City Council, I want to present this to you, and thanks for being here today. There you are. Okay. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next presentation, and today we have the director of Save a Pet, She's Ann Wood, and she'll be coming forward and to talk about the grand opening of their new facility, which is going to happen on October 5th. And Dana Hobart is going to come down and there's your dog, okay.
Let's get Barney down.
Dana's going to take care of Barney.
He doesn't bark? Oh, this is Barney. Here, let me hold him if you don't mind, because I tell people, everybody. Here's somebody who doesn't just like politicians. Ms. Wood.
Yes, sir.
Would you tell us, as much as you can, about your organization? Is Save a Pet a new organization?
It's been in the valley for 30 years.
Well, tell us what you've been doing. Tell us how the public can adopt pets from you, and maybe we can get you in line from time to time to bring pups like Barney to us.
I would love to. I have a little script here telling you some history. May I read it? Thank you. Thank you all for inviting us here today to talk to you about Save a Pet. I like nothing better than to talk about Save a Pet. Our shelter's been in operation for over 30 years. It was started by Mary Sidners, who, out on a trip one day, stopped to talk to some people collecting money for an animal shelter. Those people and that shelter was the beginning of Best Friends, now probably the most well-known and respected animal shelter in the world. She loved what she heard, especially the part about no-kill. She made up her mind there and then to open her own no-kill shelter. 30 years ago, that was unheard of. She came back to the desert, where she was a resident of Desert Hot Springs, bought a piece of land with a building, and with that, 2 dogs from the street, and working 2 jobs, she started Save a Pet. She and a few friends financed Save a Pet throughout the years. Save a Pet receives no monies from city, state, government, or national animal entities. We rely purely on donations from the public. And as you can imagine, that's not easy, especially during the recent economic times. Gradually, Mrs. Sidney's colleagues and friends passed away, and sadly, Mrs. Sidney's too. Over the last 2 years, the present management has worked hard to establish a good structure and donor base for the shelter. We have recently presented a new board of experienced board members and animal lovers. It is amazing, isn't it, how sometimes in your darkest hour there appears an angel watching over you? We at Save a Pet had such an angel. At a critical time when our finances were frighteningly low, we were left a legacy. Mrs. Khan of Palm Springs left us her estate, an incredibly generous donation. The money has enabled us to spruce up the shelter, bring in permanent cover and misters for the dogs, and employ 3 key personnel, whom we hope will lead us onward and upward. One of them is with me here today. Skip Swanland is a registered veterinary technician. He comes to us from a very successful and well-known animal shelter and hospital in San Francisco, and he is going to manage our new hospital. We were able, with Mrs. Khan's donation, to buy a beautiful building in Desert Hot Springs. We have converted an empty 4,000 square feet building into a first-class animal hospital. Our medical director, Dr. Anderson, will be joined by Dr. Kip Madsen, who has been the only veterinary doctor in Desert Hot Springs for many years. Both doctors have many years of experience and a huge compassion for animals. We will all be under the same roof now and hope to be in operation by the end of the month. Our grand opening will be October 5th. The hospital will offer general and dental surgery, wellness exams, digital x-rays, medicine, low-price spay and neuter, and 2 vaccine clinics per week. We believe the success of the hospital will help us sustain the animal shelter. And of course, all the shelter animals, like Barney, get their needs attended to at the hospital. We were very lucky last year to be able to hold our first major fundraising event in Rancho Mirage. It was a tennis tournament at Ranchos Las Palmas. The resort was so pleased with us, they have invited us back for a tennis and golf tournament on March the 2nd next year. So please, clean up your clubs, dust off your rackets, and come and join us. We will have a dinner and a silent auction, and all the proceeds will go to Save a Pet Animal Shelter. This money helps little guys like Barney here. Barney came to us in a bad way. He had been attacked by 2 boxer dogs and was badly in need of help. We were called by the Riverside Animal County Shelter to see if we could help him. We were able to stitch him up and make him better. He is now ready for adoption, up to date with vaccines and a microchip, and he's looking for a forever home. Animals come to us in various avenues. From the streets, from people who can no longer look after their pet. We take a large number from the county shelter and save them from euthanization. We do take in injured animals and have had many success stories like Barney, getting them healed and adopted out to loving homes. Our adoption record is very good. Last year we found homes for 400 dogs and over 200 cats. We are on track to do the same this year. We have a loyal and compassionate staff at the shelter and hospital. One of our veterinary techs will run the tram run again this year. She asks for sponsors, and with this money, they treat any animal that comes into the hospital that needs urgent care and there is no money to pay the bill. We call it Rusty's Run, and she can be sponsored on our website via PayPal or credit card, calling the hospital number 760-251-1400. I believe Skip is part of the team this year. He will be walking the tram. To follow all that's happening at Save a Pet, please log on to our website at www.saveapetonline.org and follow us on Facebook. We thank you again for having us here today. We are grateful for the chance to tell you the good work that's happening at Save a Pet. Hope to see you at our grand opening and at Rancho Las Palmas next year. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. One second. I just, for those who are looking for a little more love in your life, as you can see, this dog is just full of love. And I already have 3 dogs and 1 wife, so and Rancho Mirage only allows 3. So fortunately, otherwise, I'm afraid that Barney would be going home with me. But people in Rancho Mirage can get a dog from your organization at no cost to them. The first $100 at least is picked up by the city if a person makes application. And I can certainly vouch for this fine little guy as being just one super dog. And I hope that somebody, either here or watching on TV, take him home and give him a forever home.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you guys very much.
Steve.
Thank you, Ann, for being here today and bringing Barney with you. Thank you, Dana. And at this point, we will now have a presentation by the Coachella Valley Water District regarding the chromium-6 in the drinking water. And today we've got Assistant General Manager Robert Chang and Director of Environmental Services Steve Bigley. Robert, it's nice to have you here today.
Good afternoon, Mayor Kite and Honorable City Council. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having us today and for giving us a few minutes to share with you what's an update on the newest chemical to be regulated by the drinking water industry. This chemical has been in the news quite a bit here in the Valley, I understand. And what we want to do is just take a 5-10 minutes of your time this afternoon to kind of provide you a brief update on the potential impacts that this chemical has. First of all, chromium-6 is naturally occurring in the groundwater here. And I'm sorry, I'm not giving the presentation, so Steve Bigley will. But I just want to give you a preface to Steve's presentation. Okay, so the drinking water regulators set a new standard for this chemical at the end of August, and we have 45 days to comment on the validity of the findings. After that time, the comment period will be closing on October 11th, so it's coming up on us rather quickly. And the district has taken a look at the science behind it, and we don't necessarily agree with the cost-benefit model that they used. If this is enacted in its present form, it could have some significant impacts to the ratepayers of the Valley, including Rancho Mirage. For example, the bills for water could be going up from $7 per per month for a household, up to $50 a month. And we can discuss a little bit more why that is. And a couple of things I want to close out my comments with before I turn it over to Mr. Bigley is the district is encouraging our residents to submit their own comments. We're submitting our comments by the 11th of October, but it would be very powerful if the ratepayers could also voice their concerns over what this means to them. And then also, the Coachella Valley Water District will be holding an informational session on the evening of October 7th at our administration building in Palm Desert. And it will be at 515 Hoveley Lane East. Forgive me, I'm a little new to the valley, so I'm still trying to get acquainted with all the different communities around here. But on October 7th at 6 o'clock, we will be holding a more detailed informational session on that. Should you care to hear a little bit more about what this chemical means. So I'll close my comment here, and I'll bring Mr. Bigley, who's the Director of Environmental Services for the Coachella Valley Water District. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I just have 7 quick slides for you that I can roll through. And go to the, is that turned over? There we go. Chromium is one of almost 100 constituents regulated in drinking water. Since 1977, we've had a chromium standard. The national standard is 100 parts per billion. The California standard is 50 parts per billion. Part per billion is 1 drop in 10,000 gallons, about a small swimming pool. In 1999, some additional concerns were raised about ingesting chromium. And in 2000, we had a blockbuster movie, Aaron Brockovich, which was on this compound. 2001, our lawmakers felt that we needed a regulation for chromium-6. They passed a law. Unfortunately, they didn't have enough information to set a standard, so they went and did a rodent study. So they tested rats and mice. And those dosages there, you see, all the way to the left is 0 part per billion. The second one from the left is 5,000 parts per billion, so that's 100 times higher than our current drinking water standard. That was the lowest dose. And then the 2 doses on the right, 30,000 and 90,000 parts per billion. It was in those 2 doses where they did see some increased tumor formation in the rodents. All the rodents lived, they had the same survivorship, but they did see those tumors. And based on that data, they went ahead and set a public health goal of 0.02 parts per billion. Very low level, you can't measure that low. And now in August, they came out with a draft drinking water standard of 10 parts per billion. And we're in that 45-day window right now to comment on that. Why do we care? Because we have chromium occurs naturally in this valley. Fault systems and the sediments next to faults have higher levels of chromium in there, just naturally. And like calcium and potassium and other minerals, the chromium will dissolve into the water over time. Our levels are typically a minute level, about 20 parts per billion or below. This map shows our valley, and all the way to the west side, up in the top left-hand corner, dark blue color, that's where our whitewater replenishment ponds are. That's where the Colorado River water is coming in. Colorado River water has no chromium-6. And you can see the 40 years of replenishment that we've been doing has very low levels on the west side of the valley, well below the 10 parts per billion. The transition between green and yellow, that's about the 10 part per billion range. So anything yellow and brown would be above that level. The grayed out area there in the center is the Indio and Coachella areas, and all of their wells would exceed the 10 part per billion that's been proposed. Overall, over 50% of the water that we supply would exceed that new limit if it's finalized. Statewide, about 1/3 of the wells that would be impacted by this rule occur in the Coachella Valley. So this is a very important rule for the valley here. We happen to have a lot of experience on this one. We're one of a handful in the whole country that are actually removing chromium from drinking water. About 10 years ago, when the state lowered the arsenic standard, We had some naturally occurring arsenic down by the Salton Sea in the East Valley. We also had chromium down there, and we knew they were looking at this, so we went ahead and installed treatment facilities that removed both arsenic and chromium. We were the first in the country. The center photo there shows what $5.3 million will buy you. Inside, top photo, lots of vessels, that's where all the chemistry occurs, neat stuff. We've been operating those systems over 6 years. We have a lot of good cost information. Unlike most systems in California, we actually know how much it's going to cost. We're also doing some research projects. We have nationally supported research funds that we got. The bottom photo on the left is some work we did in the lab, and now we're applying that work out in the field in the bottom photo on the right, doing some pilot tests, looking at alternative treatment technologies, alternative what we're already implying. Data's coming in. It looks like there are other technologies. They're all expensive. So we should have data for that next year. So let's look at costs. Those 4 bars show 4 different options that they were looking at, from 1 part per billion up to 20 part per billion. The yellow bar is the 10 part per billion that they have proposed. That equates to about a $225 million capital cost. That would be our largest capital infrastructure project ever. The costs are roughly about $500 per customer per year to install those facilities and operate and maintain them. We're doing a lot of planning. We're going to complete our treatment research. We're looking at source of supply. Will we be using Colorado River directly through treatment into the pipes rather than putting it into the ground? Will we use some of the alternative groundwater treatment projects? We have lots of options for consolidation. This photo on the bottom shows, the center photo shows a well site. Most of them are too small to install treatment facilities. So that presents a significant challenge to trying to install treatment facilities. The photo on the bottom shows those blue lines are pipelines that we would have to install to bring water from 3 wells to a centralized location where we have vacant land that we could purchase and build a large treatment facility. That's the same concept that we implemented in the East Valley. That happens to be Desert Willow there. In addition to looking at those, we're looking at different funding options. We're going to be reaching out to the public more, and eventually, if the state sets the standard, we'll have to develop some compliance plans. So what are we doing in the short term? We're reaching out. We're looking for you to help us communicate to the public the concerns we have with this rule. We're meeting with local legislators. We're going to have a public workshop on October 7th. Go more into the science on why the state thinks we need this and what the costs are. We're going to be submitting our technical comments on October 11th, testifying at the hearing in Los Angeles. We encourage that our residents to attend our workshop, learn more about this subject, and write comments if they feel it's important to them. This is the best opportunity to ensure we maintain a protective standard that is also affordable to our residents here. The state will then look at all the comments. They'll develop a revised limit if it's warranted. And they also have to submit their responses to the court because they were sued by the environmental groups for not having this rule in place by now. The court could actually determine a tighter timetable for when this standard would become effective. It usually might take a year. We could see it as early as the end of this year. Unlike EPA rules, when the state has a new rule, it becomes effective the day it's signed. So we will become out of compliance very shortly after we begin our compliance monitoring. That's not a good thing, but there's not much we can do to prevent that. It will take years to develop a compliance plan and install these facilities. So that's where we're at, and tell your neighbors.
Can I ask you a question? Seems to me that in determining what we're going to pay for water, we have to have some kind of an idea about the health effects. And you didn't talk about the health effects. And I'm wondering if you would tell us now, at 10 parts per billion, as the state law will be, I gather, if it's passed and signed, what do scientific personnel say about the health effects of 10 parts per billion? And what are some of the arguments that that you're dealing with to convince us that we should be more concerned about the cost than our health?
Great question. Certainly, we are looking at what it will take to meet the limit. We have risk assessors that do all that math, but I can tell you the concern is cancer. They don't know what cancer in humans. They do know in the rodents, they got oral cavity cancers and small intestine cancers at these very high concentrations. Hinckley, California, that's where the movie was based. They've done 3 epidemiology studies since the movie came out. They actually have lower cancer rates there. So they really they've looked all over the earth. In China, there was a small village in 1987. They were drinking yellow water from a chromium ore facility above them. The author found no health effects. The California risk assessors reevaluated the data, parsed out the data, and felt there was a small increase in stomach cancer. They couldn't use that data to set a standard because they didn't know what the levels were that they were drinking in that small village in China. Other than that, there is no other data except for this rodent study from 2008, done according to the best processes that they do to set these standards. And the risk assessors look at that and say, well, they followed the process. That's the process you use. And when you give the rodents enough of this, they got a response. So that's what it's all based on.
And Steve, that study only looked at 0 or 50. So how did they get to 10 as a standard?
Okay, often with these studies, in order to elicit a response, they have to give them huge doses because they're trying to regulate at a 1 in a million risk. They're not going to test 1 million rodents at each level. So they test 50 rodents. So they started the concentration at 5,000 parts per billion because that's what it looks like it takes in order for their bloodstream to start taking up chromium-6. Chromium-6 is a very interesting one. It converts to chromium-3 in our saliva and in our GI tract. Chromium-3 is an essential nutrient that we need to regulate our blood sugar. It's a very interesting one. So their concern is we give them enough and we get a response. We don't know what happens at this level, so we draw a straight line. So that means that much will cause a problem. Other scientists think there may be a threshold. No response, no response. You get up to a certain level, 20,000 parts per billion maybe. You overwhelm the body's ability to convert chromium-6 to chromium-3, and you elicit a response. So there's 2 camps on this. There's one that is the precautionary, linear dose response. Let's be safe. The others say, well, the data really looks like there's a threshold, and once you get over the threshold, you overwhelm the rodent's ability, and you got a response. That's the short of the science.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm kind of interested in 2 things. What group is suing and pushing for this regulatory change and why? Go ahead.
NRDC, the National Resource Defense Council, and the Environmental Working Group both sued the state of California because the law that was adopted in 2001 said we will have a drinking water standard for chromium-6 by January of 2004. You need science to set a standard. We need to make sure science is part of that process. So it took that long to do the rodent studies and to develop the cost-benefit assessment.
And then secondly, we, the ratepayers, are paying for Coachella Valley Water District to have government affairs specialists in Sacramento on retainer. What is your government affairs strategy prior to these testimonies, and what is your plan if this law does pass?
Yeah, I actually happen to sit on multiple committees that are looking at this rule and looking at the health goal that was set 2 years ago. We submitted lots of comments. Really, at this point, legislatively, the law already exists, and the science is just now following that law. Our lobbyists did their best at the time that law was being enacted, but there's a lot of politics involved with this one. There's a lot of public perceptions, and it flew by the Assembly back in 2001.
But the standard is now being adjusted.
Correct. The standards, yeah.
So there's a new law coming or an amendment to it.
Yeah, the proposal's out, and they're accepting public
So
comment.
what is
now.
our strategy now, since
Yeah,
since your lobbyists failed prior? What have you learned from that, and what are they doing? Because we're paying for those guys, and I want to understand what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
As opposed to just asking everybody to write in letters, you've got professionals in Sacramento. What are they doing to educate our lawmakers on this and the impact that'll impact our region if we have these additional costs without the science to back it up?
Well, one thing is what we're seeing with the rule, they have significantly underestimated the costs. As I said, we have a lot of information on costs. It looks like right now, preliminarily, our costs will be 320% higher than what they used in their cost-benefit assessment. So that will go a long way. When they set standards, they have to set standards where the the benefits are justified by the costs. If they underestimate the costs, they can justify a lower standard. So we're experts on the cost, what it takes to meet standards. So we need to focus on that and present that information. So we're working with 4 different groups, the water associations, the largest water associations working on this, and we've hired consultants and developing a critical analysis of the methods they use to justify this standard. And it's flawed. There's multiple issues with that. We had a similar process with the arsenic rule, and it did end up with EPA. They came out with a standard of 5 parts per billion, ended up raising it to 10 parts per billion, at least in part because of the underestimating of the cost. So, I'm still hoping that we will get a reasonable standard out of this.
Great. Thank you.
Steve, what would you suggest as far as our public that's watching today? How do they get more information? Who do they contact for more information?
Attend our forum on October 7th. We'll have a lot of good information that on the back of this presentation, there are the addresses where you can write to the state and comment on this. If you think the $500 a year is affordable, fine. If you think it might have challenges, that's the type of comment that they need to hear. And we will be making those comments too.
And the meeting will be held at your offices?
Yes. It's a Monday, October 7th, 6 p.m. at our Palm Desert office there.
Okay. Any other questions? Iris,
I
did you
do have one question. Just to clarify a couple things, I believe you said that it's like 1 drop of this chromium-6 in an average swimming pool. How do you also equate what we're having? Everyone's very concerned, obviously, with what's in our water. And we learn something new every day. And most of it's undesirable. But when it comes to arsenic and some of the other supposedly carcinogenic chemicals, how do they compare? And as opposed to 1 drop in a swimming pool, what would arsenic be, and what would some of the other ones be?
Okay. Arsenic, the standard was 50 parts per billion. They lowered it down to 10 parts per billion in 2001.
Right. And how does that fit into 1 drop in a swimming pool?
Okay, that'd be 10 drops in a swimming pool.
Okay.
So we have instruments now that can see very low levels of these constituents. And, they've pretty much addressed all the major issues with drinking water, but we still have this structure where they come to work and write new regulations. And they're very creative, very smart people. And they have models that they can then write new regulations. And that's what we're looking at. They're turning their attention to some of the things that occur naturally in our groundwaters now. Arsenic was the first, chromium, strontium, vanadium. There's a long list, hundreds of candidates. So, we may be just looking at the tip of the iceberg with these new regulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We appreciate you bringing this information to us, and hopefully people will get out at the meeting and learn more about the subject.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the program today, as you see in the front row of our seating area today, we have the cops with us, Citizens on Patrol Services, and we have their captain, Terry Goodale, to talk about a little bit about the cops and their programs. So, Terry?
This is Terry. I'm Bill.
Terry, Bill?
I'm the other Terry.
Bill Border?
Yeah, Bill.
Bill's going to do the talking today. I seem to talk a lot and say very little. So with that being said, Bill's going to give you all the
Okay,
info
thank you,
that
Terry, and we'll have, Bill, you're the sergeant, right? So.
Yes,
Okay, so
I've been busted.
appreciate you being here today.
Good afternoon, Mayor Kite, members of City Council and staff. I'm Bill Borden, and I'm here this afternoon to give you an update on the Rancho Mirage COPS program. And I must say I'm doing so under some very unusual circumstances. That is, immediately after excellent presentations on the elderly, cute dogs, and chromium tests on rats. 2013 marks the 20th anniversary of our COPS program, and we are still evolving, still changing. We encounter change just as you do every day, and we deal with it. Some of the important changes we are dealing with are, just as council rotates the position of mayor to assure freshness and leadership by electing new mayors each year, the COPS program has decided that from time to time we are going to elect new captains to continue to bring us fresh leadership. Terry Goodale is going to serve as captain. You've already met Terry. Terry has years and years of valuable business experience. He's universally respected by all cops, and he has asked me to continue during this presentation. God only knows why, but I shall. Another significant change in our policy is the new one cop policy. When we started the program 20 years ago, it was felt that it was better to have two cops in a car. It was felt that 4 eyes were better than 2. It was felt that in case of an accident, two cops would serve better than 1. However, since there are now 30 of us, and similar organizations in Palm Desert and other nearby cities have solo cops patrolling, we decided to have a look at the possibility of doing this late in 2012. We started with only the captain and the lieutenant of patrols going out alone. Our major conclusion at the end of the 6th month was positive. When one single cop goes out alone in a car, he or she goes more deeply into the neighborhoods. He stops more to get to know the residents. He knows the neighborhoods better. He knows the neighbors better. The results were so good in March that we opened up the single patrol program to any volunteer who is approved by the captain. The single patrol is entirely voluntary, as some of our cops prefer to have someone in the right seat. They feel more secure. Whatever reason, they're certainly willing to do that, able to do that. One-man patrols have brought us several benefits over and above our expectations. We frequently have 2 patrols out instead of 1. This gives us greater flexibility and more efficient use of our assets. For example, right now, because of the one cop policy, there are 3 patrols in Rancho Mirage instead of the 1, which we would have had before this policy. Concurrent with our single patrol policy, we put into service an additional vehicle, a Crown Victoria sedan operating on CNG. Yes, it's a little trickier to refuel, but the benefits we receive in terms of efficiency far outweigh the inconvenience. Also, it lightens the load on the rest of our fleet, and 2 of our Explorers have over 120,000 slow city driving miles on them. The 4th vehicle, a hybrid van, is in the final stages of being equipped as we speak. I think they're putting Terry's name on the door or something, I don't know. But with 4 vehicles and the single patrol option, you'll be seeing a lot more of us on the streets of Rancho Mirage. On these streets so far this year, this is what we've done. We volunteered 6,214 hours of patrol time. We have driven over 16,550 miles within the city of Rancho Mirage. That's a lot of miles. We managed 254 incidents, handled 40 stalled vehicles, 50 graffiti reports, and 15 serious injury accidents. In June, as you know, there was a fatal accident on Highway 111. Your cops directed traffic safely away from this scene for more than 6 hours in 100-degree-plus temperature. We freed up the deputies and paramedics for their more important life-saving work. In June, we also worked in various city facilities during President Obama's visit. May found us all over the city controlling the traffic for 100 bicyclists who zoomed through Rancho Mirage and on to Palm Springs. These are pretty typical of the things we do to make things better in Rancho Mirage. Our cops are men and women who have chosen not to go into retirement on cruise control. Our cops choose to do something important. We choose to do something that will last long after we are gone. If anyone watching, or indeed if any of you, would like to do something very important and make life better for our city, just call City Hall, 760-324-4511, 760-324-4511. Tell the receptionist you're interested in becoming a cop. We'll do the rest. If you choose to be a cop, you will make your life better and the lives of everyone in this city better and safer. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Bill. Are there any special requirements that you have to possess to be a cop?
Obviously not. Yes, you have to be over the age of 18 and able to give us 4 hours a week of volunteer service,
4
be a
hours a
reasonably
week.
good driver, and be in reasonably good health.
Okay. Hopefully you get a big response and you have a lot more cops out over the next year or so.
We hope so too. Thank you, ladies.
You
and
all
gentlemen.
do a wonderful job, and Terry, you do a great job in leading them. So appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're down to the last of the presentations, and this is a presentation that actually we received rather than giving them out as we normally do. And this is a proclamation from our Congressman, Raul Ruiz of the 36th District, and he is acknowledging our 40th anniversary and what a quality city we are. So we thank him very much for this acknowledgement, and we'll be celebrating our 40th anniversary through the end of this year and the beginning of next year, I think. At this time, Steve, did you have an urgency item you wanted to bring forward?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. After the posting of today's agenda, Councilmember Hines has requested that we add an additional item to the agenda as an urgency item. And the item is a proposed contribution in the form of either a grant or loan of $5,000 to the American Foundation for Arts Education to fund the opening of the Musical Theater University tomorrow on the Rancho Mirage High School campus. Apparently, the foundation needs $5,000 immediately to guarantee the instructors' salaries to be able to open the Musical Theater University tomorrow. And so that needs to be added to the agenda as an urgency item by a 4/5 majority vote.
And I might add to that, too, as we decide whether or not to add it to the agenda, that this is due to the fact that an expected grant has just been delayed for a few weeks, and that has created this crisis on their part. And so we think this is a short-term solution, but we'd like to at least hear the presentation if the council's open to it.
Okay, so we need a motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion that we add this item to that was just discussed by our city attorney to the action calendar as an urgency item.
Okay, is there a second? Second. There's a second. All in favor, vote, please. This will be item number 15 on the agenda. And the motion carries 5-0. At this time, we'll now move on to non-agenda public comments. This gives you all in the audience an opportunity to speak on any item that is not on the agenda today. If you would like to fill out one of these yellow request forms and give them to the city clerk, you can then be recognized to speak. So we would hope that you would hold your comments down to 3 minutes. And the first speaker today is Lori Weathers.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. Excuse me, a little nervous. I am Lori Weathers. I'm with the Riverside County Office on Aging, Program Manager here for the Coachella Valley in the East County. I'm also the Director of the RSVP Volunteer Program, which is formerly known as the Retired Senior Volunteer Program. Of course, this is poetic, actually coming up behind Rancho Mirage Cops, because of course everyone sitting here is an RSVP volunteer through our program as well. I would like to let you know that the Office on Aging is also having its 40th anniversary in June of next year, so we're quite excited. We've been permitted to bring a table out from our InfoBound program that is providing some information for seniors or older adults and some of the services that are available to them through the county. I'm here to speak more on RSVP and what RSVP has done for the Coachella Valley, specifically for Rancho Mirage, what we can do for you, but more importantly, what RSVP has been able to help do for your citizens in your city. Quickly, just a couple of statistics I have is, I don't know if you're aware, but we are very much into the baby boomer age right now, and our baby boomers are turning the age of 65 at a rate of 10,000 per day, not per hour, not per year, but per day. That's an average of 330 people turning 65 in this country alone every day. So we have a lot of people that are getting older, retiring, and looking for something to do. This is where RSVP can come in. Looking at the population from the 2010 census that was taken, Rancho Mirage has a little over 17,000 people as residents of the city. Those that are over the age of 55, there's almost 11,000. Over the age of 65, 7,500, a little bit more than that. In the city of Rancho Mirage alone, we have 13 volunteer sites is what we call them. They're registered sites, nonprofit and governmental. And these sites range from the Alzheimer's Association to the Jocelyn Center as well, even though it's located in Palm Desert. It does serve Rancho Mirage. Meals on Wheels, the telephone safety net that is done out of the Jocelyn Center, which is a contact by phone to what we call shut-ins or people who cannot get out of their houses. The Rancho Mirage cops, of course, they gave you all the statistics today. It's fantastic what they do for the city of Rancho Mirage. And of course, this isn't the only one that we have throughout the desert, but for Rancho Mirage, you have a very big volunteer base in the COPS program. You also have a very large volunteer base in Eisenhower, and I've asked 2 of the Eisenhower volunteers to come as well, just so that you could see that they are here. One of them is an RSVP Advisory Council member. Her name is Beverly Berg. She's volunteered at Eisenhower for 18 plus years approximately. The other is Mel Barton. He is also a volunteer at Eisenhower, has been there for many years, has contributed greatly to many of the cities here in volunteering, and was also a Senior Inspirations volunteer, Senior Inspirations Award volunteer for 2013 for the city of Indian Wells. At this point, we only took some statistics for January through August 31st, because we get our numbers from volunteer coordinators such as Weldon Hinkle. Henke? There we go, sorry. He sends us information every month, gives us some hours, gives us some incidents, etc. Collaboration of all 13 sites so far this year. We have a total of 227 volunteers for Rancho Mirage that have served over 20,000 hours, actually 20,241. Now, mind you, these are RSVP volunteers who are 55 and older, because that's the only qualification for them. And calculated through an average cost per volunteer across the nation is a savings of approximately $500,900. That's just for this year so far. So RSVP volunteers do a lot, which of course you all know. Volunteers across the ages do a lot for a lot of people. With RSVP, we're lucky enough that we are also a national program. So we're under the umbrella of Senior Corps. So being that way, we can do some advertising for local volunteer positions, and being the fact that we are very seasonal. We do recruitment, vetting of volunteers. We gather up sites. We make placements or make sure there's a good fit between the volunteer and the volunteer site. We also provide a secondary insurance for all volunteers, which covers them from their home to their place of service, through their service, and back again. So, as I said, it is a secondary insurance, and it's to no cost of anyone. We also provide a mediation and support for the sites as well as the volunteers. If they find it's not a good fit, we'll find another place, because there's all kinds of places that need help and need volunteerism. Rancho Mirage citizens also benefit from some of the other sites that are outside the city's city limits, which would be Stroke Recovery Center, some of the museums that we have throughout the valley, the McCallum. We have a wide variety of opportunities for our seniors out there or our older adults. Rancho Mirage has been a very staunch supporter of RSVP over the years, and we would like very much to thank you for all of the support that the City of Rancho Mirage has given to RSVP. We hope we get to continue that relationship, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to speak on any non-agenda items today? Seeing none, we will now move on to the next item, which is City Council or Board Member comments. And I'll start with Iris.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, you think I would know?
Thank you, cops.
Yes,
Appreciate you coming today.
I do have a couple of comments.
3 minutes, Iris.
Okay, I'll rush. Okay, two different things, one of which is just a reminder to everyone in regard to our CERT training that the city is very pleased to be able to not only support, but for all those that attend the CERT training program, we will reimburse you the cost, which turns out to be $87.50. CERT training, if you're not familiar with it, is the Community Emergency Response Team. And this is teaching a great hands-on program as to what to do during an emergency and what not to do during an emergency, how to help your fellow man, how to come to aid for your city. And it's an extremely worthwhile training program. The next event is going to be taking place as far as a training course at the Roy Wilson Training Center. It is on Ramon Road, and it is located in Thousand Palms. If you have any interest in attending, please give City Hall a call, and we will tell you exactly the directions if you don't already know them. You can find them also on the website, but the CERT training class will be held November 12, 13, and 14. And the new program now is that the training will require 24 hours worth of class time, which is, as I say, very hands-on. And if you complete all 24 hours, then you will be reimbursed for the $87.50. There's also going to be another class that is coming up in November. It is November 15th through the 17th, and it is going to be at the La Quinta City Hall. So if you have any questions, give us a call or look on our website, and you can find out all the information you probably need to know. The other thing I wanted to mention was that in just a few weeks from now, the 2013-2014 season of the Coachella Repertory Theater begins. You may want to write down some of this information and then put it on your calendar, because it's a lot of good stuff that's going to be appearing there. They're going to be having 4 adult productions plus 1 production for children called Children's Outreach Programming. The adult productions include this year 3 plays featuring a retrospective of Tony-nominated and Drama Desk Award and Pulitzer Prize Award winner American playwright Terrence McNally. Also in December, they're going to be having a lovely, heartwarming holiday musical. So, just to begin, so you can write it down, from October 23rd through November 10th, there will be a very interesting presentation called Master Class. And this is about Maria Callas teaching a master's class at the Lincoln Center in New York. It shows her interaction with students and reflects on the history of her life and her rise to the top of her profession. Should be very, very interesting. Then on December 4th through the 22nd, we will have the holiday musical presentation. And then January 22nd through February 9th will be a presentation of A Perfect Ganesh. So as many of you know, the CV Rep Theater is noted for presenting wonderful plays related to children and behavior and life's traumas. They're going to be having one that is supposed to be extremely well done. It's called Hope is a Thing of Feathers. It's an original production. It deals with conflict, romance, tragedy, traumatic loss, and then, of course, great hope. All these children's productions are really geared to children, and very often they're put on by children. They always provide a new learning experience for children. Their first production that took place a couple of years ago dealt with bullying and the effects it had on everyone, children and families. The CV Rep Theater buses in children from all over the valley here. There are 2 performances daily, so mark on your calendar some of these dates, or you can reach the box office at 760-296-2966. They are located in the atrium on Highway 111 in Rancho Mirage, or you can look on their website. And just a wonderful production manager and director is Ron Salona. He puts on some incredible plays, and just a special thank you to him for all that he does. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dana?
No, thank you.
Okay. Iris used up all your time,
I
guys,
think so.
I'm sorry.
Nothing for me. I'm good, thanks.
Ted?
I saw a very interesting program on investment frauds and schemes. And we're all familiar with the Bernie Madoff and his Ponzi scheme. And this was a fraud that he actually took to a new level. And I thought the subject was very germane because a number of our residents in the valley are susceptible to these kinds of representations. I remember going to my mother's home many years ago in Palm Springs and saw a large box of keychains on the floor. And I asked her what they were, and she said that she was told that she had won a contest and that it only cost her $30 to have them delivered. And of course, the people had gotten her credit card, social security number, and she was 86, 87, 88, and vulnerable. Fortunately, in this case, I was able to go to the Attorney General's office, and we were able to stop this kind of a scheme. And that's rare. Oftentimes, you're not able to catch these people. One of the most appealing inducements for our retirees is the idea of work at home and make another $500 or $1,000 a week. And generally, again, this is a come-on because they want you to buy a small amount of inventory. And after that, you never hear from them again. The other that is prevalent and amazes me how successful this type of a representation is that you get a telephone call that you have inherited or received a large amount of money, generally from Europe. And all they need is your bank account number. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to do anything. The money will be wired to your account. And of course, again, this has to do with getting into your bank account and getting your social security number. And these people are very clever. They will even have people posing as bankers from various areas verifying that you have won this amount of money. If you receive a solicitation of any kind, you should immediately report it to the Attorney General or the Better Business Bureau. Common sense is the best precaution. And the old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it generally is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. And that will end the City Council comments for the day, and we'll now move on to the approval of the minutes for September 3rd.
I'll move approval.
There's the motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. We'll now move on to the consent calendar. And the consent calendar includes items that are generally routine in nature. With one motion, we can approve the group of particular items. And at this time, either council or a public member may request an item be pulled for special discussion. Is there any request for the consent items to be pulled? Okay, there is not, so we'll move on to the consent calendar brought to us by our city manager, Randy Binder. Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Good afternoon. The first item on consent is approval of final map 36235, the Ravel project on Clancy Lane. This project has not fulfilled all of its conditions of approval yet, and I request that this be pulled from the agenda, and we will put it back on when the applicant has satisfied the required conditions of approval.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second. Let's vote on that. Continue this item.
To table it.
To table it? Oh, okay.
Roll call.
Mayor Kite, Mayor Pro Tem Smotrich, could you try your vote again? Thank you.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Going on to the next item.
Thank you, Cindy. So item number 2 is a request that the council support 2 of the League of California Cities resolutions that are coming up later this week. That the City Council allow Mayor Kite and Mayor Pro Tem Smotrich to support the 2 resolutions that are involving water bond funds and public safety realignment. The first resolution would call upon the governor and the legislature to work with the League of California Cities, providing adequate funding to prioritize water bonds and assist local government in water conservation, groundwater recharge, and reuse of stormwater. Now, this requirement would allow Mayor Kite and Mayor Pro Tem Smotrich and myself to see monies earmarked for Salton Sea restoration should the water bond move forward. And the second resolution that the League would like action on is a resolution calling upon the governor and legislature to enter into discussion with the League representatives to identify and enact strategies that would ensure the success of public safety realignment from local municipal law enforcement perspective. And from this standpoint, the resolution that the League is looking for support on would be a formal request to the governor that he sit down and talk with the League of California City representatives with the goal of assuring funding for local governments where we have to deal with prison realignment. This would help the local cities and counties to deal with early release of criminals at the local level. So we're looking for your support for Mayor Kite and Pro Tem Smotrich to vote on those. Item number 3 on your agenda are purchase orders. Item number 4 are contracts, and I wanted to point out one of the contracts is a large contract over $300,000 for the Housing Authority requested by Housing Manager Sean Smith for Hyder Company to replace cabinetry at Parkview Villas. The cabinetry in the units at Parkview Villas is in pretty bad shape, and I believe that he's done the first 6 units, is that right? And this was budgeted in the Housing Authority budget with housing bond Housing Authority bond proceeds, is that right? And this would allow him to finish up the rest of the 82 units there. Item number 5 on your agenda are demands, and we are here to answer any questions, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions, comments? Sean Smith, could you come down and tell us a little bit more about the item that we're doing as far as Parkview Villas?
Certainly. Good afternoon. Actually, Mr. Binder, it's going to only cover 24 more units. We've done 6. That'll get us to 30 of the 82. So we've got 82 total units at Parkview Villas, and we've got all of those units in conditions where they haven't been upgraded nor really repaired in a number of years. And through the use of housing bond proceeds, we're going to be able to hopefully continue with this work effort and get all of the units upgraded in terms of their flooring and cabinetry. We were dealing with a lot of unsafe conditions at one point in time where cabinets were barely being held up to the wall with makeshift repairs. We've gone through on an average of about $14,000 per unit to significantly upgrade these units. I know you, Mayor, kind of seen them yourself, and they're quite impressive.
Sean, the actual work that we're doing, the kitchen cabinetry and bathrooms?
Correct. It'd be the entryway where you enter the unit, the flooring would be redone, the kitchen flooring, and either 1 or 2 bathrooms, depending on the size of the unit. We have about half of the units at 1 restroom and half at 2. So we're doing the cabinetry throughout the kitchens and in the restrooms as well, and the hallway closet would be included in that.
Are we doing this work while the people are living in the units?
Initially, with the first 6 units, we moved the residents into hotel accommodations. That was a little problematic given our demographic. A number of people had issues with being away from their unit for that many days and having to actually get their gatherings together and move to the hotel. So what we're doing now is reserving 1 unit, and we're going to be renting some furniture and moving the residents into that 1 unit while the work occurs in their unit, and then moving them back, and then so forth and so on until we get done with the project.
Great, thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, Sean, on the Hyder contract where we're paying $336,000 for the cabinetry, do they get and submit any bids to us for that work?
They don't submit bids to the city, but I was working with them very closely on the bidding process, and we did get bids from 3 different companies, including the one that we did an initial unit with because it was so severely dilapidated that we had to do something immediately. The winning bid was HD Supply. So Hyder manages the construction project, and we reimbursed Hyder for the cost of that work.
But they do submit the bids. At least
Yeah.
you review them.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thanks. Okay, we've heard the various consent items, and item 1 has been pulled. So can I have a motion to accept the balance of the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So motion, is there a second? There's a second, please vote. And the motion carries 5-0. We'll now move on to the public hearing portion of the calendar. And this falls under the Housing Authority and successor agency and its approval and adopt joint resolution. And I believe our finance director, Isaiah Hegerman, will discuss this. Isaiah?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. The item that you have before you today is to comply with Health and Safety Code Section 33445. Basically, that code section requires that you, in your role as the successor agency and as a Housing Authority Board of Directors, make certain findings and determinations for projects that are publicly owned and that are going to be funded with former redevelopment funds. So that's what this resolution does today that you're considering. On February 21st, 2013, the members of the City Council, acting as the successor agency to the former Rancho Mirage Redevelopment Agency, approved the Recognized Obligation Payment Schedule, commonly referred to as ROPS 1314A. On February 26th, the successor agency's Oversight Board also approved that same ROPS. On May 17th, 2013, the California Department of Finance issued its letter approving ROPS 1314A. ROPS 1314A included the 4 housing authority projects, and was the approval of that ROPS was the approval of those projects and funding those projects from successor agency bond proceeds. On page 6-2 of your agenda packet is a listing of the projects. They consist of Parkview Villas cabinetry and flooring replacement, which was just discussed, for $336,000. Also at Parkview Villas, paint and exterior refurbishments for $185,000. At Whispering Waters, the construction of a shade structure. Also at Whispering Waters, erosion and stucco repair and repainting. Pursuant to this, to Health and Safety Code Section 33445, the 3 findings that we're required to make are, one, that it's in accordance or will benefit the project area, and in this case, since these are on our low and moderate income properties, that is also a benefit to the low and income properties within the project area. So that's the first finding that we have to make. The second finding is that there's no other reasonable means of funding available to the housing authority to build this project. And the third and final finding is that it is consistent with the implementation plan of the former redevelopment agency. Outlined in your staff report is the 3 findings that we make, so I will go ahead and read those now. Those are verbatim from the resolution that's attached to the staff report. So the attached joint resolution makes the following findings for the housing authority projects. The 4 housing authority projects will benefit the merged project area by providing needed improvements to the existing stock of low and moderate income housing in Rancho Mirage. Parkview Villas provides 82 affordable units and was purchased by the Housing Authority in 1995. Due to the age of the property, the units are in need of new cabinetry and flooring in order to continue the provisions of safe conditions for the residents. Funds will also be used to paint and make improvements to exterior of the units and in general use areas. Whispering Waters provides 29 affordable units and was purchased in 2004 by the Housing Authority. The projects will provide needed improvements to exterior stuccos, and the installation of a new shade structure will provide residents with additional relief from direct sunlight, especially during high temperatures. The housing projects are consistent with the redevelopment plan for the merged project area adopted pursuant to Health and Safety Code Section 33490. No other means of financing the housing projects is available to the community since, due to the dissolution of redevelopment agencies, the Housing Authority no longer receives the annual 20% set-aside funds, and the city's general fund is not available for funding. The payment of funds for the Housing Authority projects will assist low and moderate income conditions inside the project area and is consistent with the implementation plan adopted pursuant to Section 33490 of the law. The implementation plan was approved in 2009 by the former Rancho Mirage Redevelopment Agency Board of Directors prior to the dissolution of redevelopment agencies in the state of California and outlined 5 goals for the use of redevelopment funds. The Housing Authority projects meet the housing, public facilities, and elimination of blight goals outlined in the implementation plan, which represents 3 out of the 5 goals listed in the implementation plan. The above findings have been reviewed by bond counsel and also the city's attorney's office. Approval of the attached joint resolution will allow Housing Authority staff to proceed with the needed improvements. And if I could clarify one thing, when it comes to today especially, you're going to hear several items relating to the use of successor agency bond proceeds. So what that is prior to the dissolution of redevelopment agencies, the redevelopment agency issued debt to fund certain capital improvements. When the state dissolutioned all redevelopment agencies, it basically froze the use of those funds until you met certain requirements under the new law. So in our case, we have met all those requirements, and those funds are now available for use for which the intended purpose of those funds is for. So essentially, when you hear us talk about these excess bond proceeds of the successor agency, it was essentially a bucket of money that was cut off to us up until we received our finding of completion on May 7th.
Okay, and the amount of money that's in this bucket is how much?
There are approximately $54 million in successor agency bond proceeds, of which approximately $30 million will be used on various projects throughout the city, including these 4 projects that we're considering today. The remaining amount is being used in a bond redemption and refunding plan to actually retire debt of the former redevelopment agency.
Thank you. Any questions of Isaiah? Okay, well, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? I'll open the public hearing. And seeing no one coming forth, we'll close the public hearing. And questions of staff or a motion, please?
No. I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move that the council adopt and approve a joint resolution 2013 SA and 2013 HA of the City Council of the City of Rancho Mirage acting as successor agency to the former Rancho Mirage Redevelopment Agency and the Housing Authority of the City of Rancho Mirage, making certain determinations and findings relating to the expenditure of excess bond proceeds for Housing Authority projects pursuant to Health and Safety Code Section 33445.
Second.
Excellent. Please vote. And the motion carries 5-0. Continuing on in the public hearing portion of the meeting, we're now going to move to item number 9. We're going to move that item up. And Randy Villegas, our project manager, will speak on this item. This is actually a follow-up to the the study session the council had this morning. And so a lot of these items that Randy will be discussing were discussed in study session, having to do with solar energy and the installation of solar panels on the city properties. So Randy?
Great. Thank you, Mayor, City Council. What we have before you is the project on the solar locations at the City Yard and City Hall. Staff has been working on this project for about a year now, and we've had a number of meetings with City Council, with study sessions, also with Budget Subcommittee. And so we appreciate the time and the fact that you're actively engaged in this project. Back in February 2003, and then a follow-up City Council meeting in July 2013, the company Nobel Energy Solutions was given direction to do feasibility studies and design plans for both the City Yard and City Hall. Those design plans are completed and have been approved. Before getting into some of the details, I'd like to take a look at the aerial views of the 2 locations. First up on your screen is the City Yard building, and that in the shaded red locations, we have the proposed solar panels going in those locations. We're using most of the rooftops of the carports. Also down the bottom part of the screen, there's our retention basin that will have 2 solar panel arrays. And then on the far left side of your screen is our traffic signal warehouse, where we'll be installing the arrays of panels there on the rooftop there. That roof is actually part of another agenda item to repair that roof, and so we'll be doing that concurrently with the new installation of the solar panels. And, okay, if we can go to the next. And then next slide here is the aerial of the City Hall. And we have on the right side of the screen in shaded red, the carport, the parking shade structures, where we're using all of the shade structures there. And then on the far left side, we have a graded pad area adjacent to our upper parking area. And so we'll be using that as well. And I think that the capacity of the City Hall, we're going to be able to generate up to 60% of our current usage. And then for City Yard, we'll be actually near 100%. It'll be at 95% capacity there. Excuse me. Now, as far as the schedule, if assuming we have the go-ahead to start construction, the schedule is estimated to be early to mid-October to start the construction. And then the completion, it's about a 2-month project, so we'll finish up mid-December. And as part of your staff report, we also have some financial details of some of the financial choices that we looked at. We looked at the city general funds being used to purchase the actual facilities and build it ourselves, or we also looked at having a power purchase agreement with the contractor who's been working on the design plans, Nobel Energy Solutions. And Fred Bell with Nobel is here today if you have any questions for him. But after comparing the two options, we definitely are recommending the power purchase agreement. And let's take a look. And I think those are the main highlights. I'd like to actually, real quickly, just give a couple of details of the power purchase agreement. It is a 20-year agreement. There is a 10-year buyout option for the city. Nobel Energy Solutions would be investing their funds, building the system. They would be the owner, operator, basically carrying all the risks. City pays nothing until actually energy is actually produced. And the rates are set at the current rates of the utilities with an accelerator rate that is quite a bit less than what we're expecting the utilities to increase through the years. And I think those are the main highlights there. The staff report included a draft version of the PPA agreement, and there have been a couple of modifications on that. I think the city attorney was going to address that. But that pretty much concludes the presentation. And Steve, were you going to handle the modifications?
Yeah, what was distributed at Dias just right before the meeting was a red line version that includes all the changes that were made as late as Saturday. So we didn't have time to get that into the agenda. These changes were discussed during the study session. But there are two other changes that we had recommended in study session in regards to the time for repair. And so staff is recommending that we amend section 1.6 and as follows. In section 1.6, what we will do is change the appropriate language in there to reflect that the city has up to 20 days each calendar year to repair the system if necessary. And with respect to the power provider, it's recommended that we amend that second paragraph to provide the power provider up to 20 days each calendar year to conduct repairs. And if they need additional repair time, the city will reserve the right to require the power provider to pay the city's incremental increase in the purchase of substitute electricity. And we'll go ahead and tighten up that language and make those changes.
Okay.
And everywhere where there's a reference to the Imperial Irrigation District rebate, we'll change that to the Imperial Irrigation District grant, since it's technically a grant.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of staff regarding this item? Okay, this is a public hearing, so is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak on this item? And I'll open the public hearing. And we'll close the public hearing and go to council for questions or a motion, please.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor. that will incorporate those changes that were just referenced by the city attorney, that we adopt the attached resolution number 2013. Next in order, making certain findings under the California Environmental Quality Act and the Government Code, and approving execution of the solar power purchase PPA with Nobel Energy Solutions, LLC, subject to finalization and approval as to form by the city attorney. I'll also include approve the design of this project in advance of construction or improvement, finds there is a substantial evidence to support the reasonableness of the design. This approval confers design immunity on this project to the maximum degree authorized under Government Code Section 830.6.
Thank you.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. And the motion carries 5-0. Look forward to this project. It should really be exciting going forward. Okay, we'll now move back in order, the regular order of the City Council portion of the agenda, and this is item number 7, which is a presentation by Marketing Manager Robert Barrett, who's going to introduce the new Rancho Mirage communication program. Robert, it's good to have you with us today.
Well, it's always good to be here, Mr. Mayor, and council members. I'm delighted to present to you today 3 new communication programs that the staff believes will enhance our residents' awareness of city programs and services. The first of the platforms is to launch will be a publication named Rancho Mirage Insider. This piece will be mailed to all Rancho Mirage residents, residential addresses, and business 3 times a year and will replace the publication known before as Miragescape. The second piece will be a 100-page, 4-color, glossy magazine to be entitled Rancho Mirage Magazine. This publication will be annually mailed to all residential addresses and businesses, as well as distributed to Rancho Mirage resort guests. The third platform, which will be launched on October 1st, is a refreshed Rancho Mirage City website. All 3 platforms have been developed with a design directive that reflects our community's unique legacy and our California desert luxury resort sensibility. So here we have our first slide. Rancho Mirage Insider continues Rancho Mirage's mission, our Miragescape's mission of communicating information to residents and business owners about city services and events and other activities and opportunities relevant to our residents. This 12-page publication was previously distributed quarterly. Now, 3 times a year publication will be received by residents around the 1st of October, the 1st of January, and the 1st of April. We are publishing the Rancho Mirage Insider in partnership with Palm Springs Life magazine. Professional magazine writers, editors, and designers will oversee the production utilizing Associated Press standards. One voice will be brought to the editorial. The design of the publication will deliver a fresh and easier-to-read experience. Each edition will feature one cover story. In the first edition of Insider, the cover article will focus on Section 19 and adjacent parcels that, when built out, will greatly change the northeast gateway to our city. Insider will be accessible in a digitalized version. It will be found on the city's website in a page-turning, vibrant electronic edition. Starting in January 2014, residents wishing to receive a digital version of Insider will be able to opt in and order copies to be emailed to their Rancho Mirage resident or their homes elsewhere in the nation and abroad. In January of each year, starting in 2014, Rancho Mirage will publish a magazine that will focus on our brand. This publication has been conceived to embody the gracious lifestyle, rich history, and world-class amenities that define our city as a central place to live and visit in the Palm Springs Valley. Rancho Mirage magazine will be comprised of 100 editorial pages in a luxurious, oversized format. We are emulating the Pebble Beach magazine that is also published by Palm Springs Life magazine. The city will mail the publication to all residents and place copies in all Rancho Mirage hotel guest rooms, vacation rentals, and professional offices in the city. Realtors will be given copies to share with new Rancho Mirage homeowners. A digital version of the magazine will be available on the city and our resort partner websites, and the digital version will also be available to be embedded in email correspondence. Rancho Mirage magazine will not be funded by advertising. However, our resorts and a few other nonprofit entities have joined with us as publishing partners and are writing significant checks that total $36,000 directly to Palm Springs Life magazine to help fund the publication. For 5 years, the marketing department has been focused on drive market wallet acquisition. Now, with the strengthening economy, the opening of the Ritz-Carlton, the increased advertising placed in our drive markets by our resorts, and the establishment of the CVB's new tourism marketing BID that will direct $3 million of new money, new promotional destination messages at our key leisure feeder markets, Rancho Mirage has the good fortune to refocus its marketing efforts on in-market wallet distribution. Rancho Mirage magazine, in a series of beautifully illustrated articles about dining, golf, spas, resort amenities, our personalities, luxury automobiles, our events, historic designated homes, our country clubs, and so much more, will make it clear that there are myriad ways to spend money while living and loving life in Rancho Mirage, thus influencing wallet distribution. The third communication platform that we have refreshed and are about to launch in the city is the city's website. We're going to bring it up on the screen here. A little background on the current city website. It is 5 years old and overdue for refreshment. And believe me, 5 years in website life is millennium in that world. It does not adequately reflect our luxury resort brand. The current site no longer reflects best practices from municipal sites, and it's hard to read and navigate. Websites that have not been updated lose their security defenses and attract infiltrations by all sorts of mischief makers. We have experienced such incursions. A large team of city staff members have worked hard to bring us to this preview of the refreshed website beta version. Sarah Steepleton, Joni Almy, and I researched city sites across the nation to discover models that we might learn from and emulate. We wrote the scope of work and outlined the elements that we wanted in our refreshed site. Talent Evolution was selected by the city to be our new webmaster. Talent Evolution's co-owners Jared Smith and John Walker have deftly managed the process of transferring a great deal of content from our current site to this new server and have helped us refresh the homepage and major landing pages of our site. Our task has been complex, and we would not have succeeded if the departments and divisions at City Hall had not cooperated. This has been an intensive citywide effort. Special kudos are due to the following staff members that have supervised the transferal of their department's content to the new site. And I want to call out Joni Almy, Jack Murchell, Cindy Scott, Troy Wilson, Sylvia Ninos, Sandra Johnson, Lori LaFond, Joseph Carpenter, Susan Brantley, Sarah Steepleton, Virginia Ortega, Valley Wethler, Jeremy Glenn, and Kathy Mattingly. All staff members that I've called out will continue to represent their departments in the updating of their department's content. Lori LaFond is leading the staff team and deserves a very special salute of appreciation for her diligence. New aspects of the refreshed site are: our new site will be accessible on all electronic devices, iPhones, tablets, laptops, etc. Our old site provided the city with minimum security. Our new site will incorporate 9 layers of security and will be state-of-the-art in this regard. Thanks to Sarah Steepleton, our city has joined the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, MS-ISAC. a federal program started after 9/11 to assist government entities and municipalities with cybersecurity threats. Rancho Mirage is the first city in the Coachella Valley and the 30th in the state to join this cybersecurity consortium. MS Isaac has already conducted a security audit of our old site, we failed, and will conduct an audit of our new site as soon as it's launched, will pass. If weaknesses are detected in our new site, MS Isaac will recommend solutions and we will implement them immediately. Sarah Steepleton also took the lead in upgrading the user's experience when watching council meetings online. Our YouTube account has been elevated to governmental status, allowing us to provide a more seamless, fast, and enjoyable experience for constituents. A new electronic press release program will be launched with the new site that will more appropriately reflect our city's sophistication and brand. We are paying particular attention to being more ADA compliant. Therefore, we have eliminated Flash and other non-compliant web design features. We are following the best practices outlined in Section 504 and 508 of the Workforce Rehabilitation Act of 1973. We're also following web design best practices for labeling and tagging images, videos, headings, and more, which are described on ada.com. The new site will remain under construction for the next 2 weeks. On October 1st, it will replace the current site at www.ranchomirageca.gov. Again, www.ranchomirageca.gov. So how about a preview? So here you see the new web page and what's happened there of our site. You can see that it's colorful, pretty to look at. The type is large and easy to see and read. I'm going to point up here on the top bar, which will always be visible no matter where you are on the website. You will see police and fire and traffic alerts and the weather, which is not active as of right now. You can depress on the city logo and go home or refresh your site. You can search our city on this bar. You can email the webmaster and tell them what you'd like to see improved about the site. You can tweet or Facebook with the City of Rancho Mirage, and that program will start in January of the new year once we establish a social media policy with the council, which is coming forward to you in the fall. Tweeting and Facebook messaging will primarily be related to disaster issues, emergency preparedness issues, and special events that the city puts on. We are not going to look at a two-way communication. It will be one way out to our constituents. The next bar, you will see here, home, about Rancho Mirage, government, departments, how do I, and contact us, will also remain on the screen wherever you go on the site. So you can always click on home, and you can always find out about Rancho Mirage, our government, our departments, and how do I, which is a new feature on our site. We built into this site 3 or 4 ways to find everything. We're not going to assume that people will find things because we think they should find them our way. We're going to make it possible to find everything many ways. How do I, if you click on that, will take you to a landing page that will ask you, how do I apply for? And you can depress affordable housing, building permit, dog license. Every single department has submitted every single issue that they think is relevant. You can also depress, how do I contact city council members, library, other agencies? How do I find, pay, register, report, request, view? So almost every question that you might have that you cannot find on your own, you can find by going to how do I. Also, for the first time, you'll be able to contact every staff member right from the top of the website. Every council member's email address will be there and our phone numbers. And for weekend contacts, we'll have our extension numbers so people can leave a message. You'll notice that this movable bar, the next thing where all the pretty pictures are, we will change out those pictures seasonally. And you'll also be able to click on them eventually and get some information about what you're looking at. The next portion of the site is, of course, really the heart of it, You see the city council, residents, and doing business. If you depress the city council, you learn everything about you folks and how you operate. Residents, everything a resident needs to know to live and play in Rancho Mirage. Doing business, if you're a developer or somebody who wants to open a business in our city, you can find out all the information you need to know. Now, this isn't the first time or the only way you do find out that information. There are many other ways to do it, but we're not going to assume that people will follow our one way. We're going to assume that everybody has an independent approach. Welcome to our city. There's a whole history of our city, how we were incorporated. You can click on that to learn more. We've learned that we can have a picture of our mayor on the website, which makes it friendly, and we're happy to do so. Do you notice our mayor right there? He's approved that positioning of that picture, I hope. And our mayor every year will have a position on the website with a message from whatever mayor that is about the site, how to use it, and other issues that the city is interested in involved in that year. You can depress this one to go to city council agendas and minutes. And then also in this area is whatever our most important upcoming event is will be under this upcoming event, and you can depress and go directly to the art affair or to any other event, emergency preparedness training that we think is important, and that will be changed out on a regular basis. Quick links. Quick links are the result of us doing a Google Analytics of our current website and discovering how our users use our website and what aspects of our website are used the most. And then we've alphabetized them. You'll notice that if you wish to adopt a pet, right there it is. Affordable housing, applications and forms. I'll show you in a minute how that works. Our most important community destination is our library, our cultural center and library, and this links directly to the library. And emergency preparedness is one of our major questions that the community asks, and that will link to all our pages about emergency preparedness. Please forgive that image right there. It's just a holding spot for now. Under city calendars, there's the meeting schedule of the city council and the commissions, and underneath that, all other events. And the library has agreed to manage that other calendar of all other events. The city's events that are not the library's events will be turned over to the library, and we'll have a new way of expressing the difference between library and city events so the public knows where to go. And then below that...
Robert.
Yes.
Will that include all the commission meetings and everything?
Commission meetings will be under meeting schedule. The council meetings and commission meetings are under meeting schedule right there. And that's the second place you can find it so far. That's on the front page up here, City Council and Agenda and Minutes. You can find it there too. But that's just the council meetings. I'll show you how that works in a minute. And then here we have all the things about Rancho Mirage, from dining to shopping to all our resorts, where you can find our parks and trails and everything. And on the very bottom of the page, we repeat. And then you can sign up for receiving email updates. And as we go forward, we're hoping that many of our residents will ask to receive electronic versions of all our communication, beginning the process of dispensing with cutting down trees to produce all these publications. If I may, I'd like to show you just a little bit of what this looks like. If I click on City Council, my gosh, there we are. And here we are. It describes the council, it describes how to contact the council. If we scroll up to City Council, we can find the agendas and minutes, another way to find it. Council members, your biographies, notice of council action. I'll show you that we found you. Indeed, we did find you. Steve, we want you to wear another colored jacket next time we take a group picture. You can see that your biographies are here. So we think that this is a much cleaner and clearer way to find your way. Notice I'm depressing there. And I'm going to scroll down and show you some of these quick links. I'm particularly excited about applications and forms. Sounds like a boring topic, but we've spent a lot of time working on application and forms. If I want a planning division form, I can go here and click on one of these forms. It takes me right to the form. And we are dedicated over the next year to make these forms fillable and returnable. so that you can email them back to us, which is a whole huge process for this group, but it's an excellent undertaking for us. So that gives you a little taste of the new navigation, the new form, the new look of our website. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have about our new communication program.
Thank you, Robert. Excellent job. And all three of those different ways to communicate, I think, are going to help us immeasurably market our city better. Done a great job.
Thank you,
Staff
Mr.
has done a great job.
I must say again and underscore how hard the staff has worked together, how enthusiastic they've been about working together about this, and how dedicated they are to making sure that their websites, that for a while no one was really paying attention to, are really updated and the information is going to be accurate and updated.
So the timing on the three publications, Insight will be out when?
Insider should be received by our residents just around the 1st of October. The new website will launch on the 1st of October. It's in a beta form now. This week, I'm asking a group of leaders in the community outside of City Hall to look at the website and give me all their comments. People that are pretty astute about how to use websites, so that'll be a tough test. And then we'll pull the plug and open it, or we'll plug in the plug and open the site to the public on October 1st. The new magazine will be received by our residents every year in January when we have the maximum number of residents, seasonal residents, and year-round residents here in town.
And that will be put in all the hotels also?
Yes, every resident will receive it at home. Businesses will receive it. They'll be in-room in all the resorts, and our formula for the number of publications includes replacements for those guests that take them home with them when they leave Rancho Mirage. We'll give them to realtors for handing out to new people who purchase homes in Rancho Mirage.
Okay, thank you. Any questions down here? Yes, Scott.
Hi, Robert. Fantastic. This has been a long time coming, and I think it's really terrific, the progress that you've made. I had just a few feedback items, and just kind of looking through this. First of all, I think it's very important as we talk about social media, and I think that we're heading in the right direction. I noticed buttons on a lot of the pages that said email. My question is that email to the webmaster, or is that email to a friend to direct somebody to that link? And regardless of what the answer is, I really think we need to have share buttons on all of these. That allows the visitor to share that information on their own personal social media, Facebook pages, Twitter pages, Google+, etc. We really want to be able to proliferate the information that's on it. And therefore, one thing that I saw that was missing that is very much a best practice right now is to plug in the APIs for Facebook and Google, etc., which the web developers I'm sure know how to do, and make sure that on every page or every event that we're trying to promote, there is the ability for the user to quickly share it on their own personal Facebook page or Twitter. Yep. Okay, so we need to add that for sure. Secondly, could you please ask the developers if they have taken into account responsive design for this? Meaning, is there a version of the website that is packaged accordingly for mobile delivery? So cell phones, smartphones, tablets. Sometimes when you design a website for a PC user or a laptop user, it doesn't display correctly and the information becomes very difficult to touch on a touch screen. So I want to make sure that responsive design is part of this because more and more people are getting their information via mobile devices.
Well, you're absolutely right. Very, very few people are now using just their PCs.
Sure.
And that is one of our top directives was to make sure that it works on all platforms. And we are testing this now on all platforms, and I'm happy to report it's working.
And then the last thing, and you can take this with a grain of salt, my 2 cents, is I find the color palette a little confusing. I really like the resort-oriented template that you've chosen with the palm trees, and there's even a bit of a Native American vibe in there with the diagonals, and I think it looks really nice. But there are a lot of colors going on, from the buttons, etc. And just to my eye, and it may be the display on our monitors here, so I could just be wrong with what I just saw, but there's 12 different colors happening there, and sometimes that can be a good thing, but I'm just, my eyes finding it a little confusing, and I wonder if we might go back and just take a second look at the color palette and make sure that there is a continuity throughout the website that fits the city's branding. So those are my inputs.
Great
But
comments.
overall, That's like 1,000% improvement over what we've got right now, so great job.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll take all these comments into account. We will go over all of them. Thank you.
Robert, let's say that realtors or whomever want to get extra copies. Will they have the opportunity to buy them, receive them? How will that be handled?
At first, this first cycle for the magazine, they will receive copies for free. And we've done some estimations on how many homes sell per year in Rancho Mirage. In fact, we're going to start communicating with realtors over the next 2 weeks at the Chamber's Team Rancho Mirage meetings, and one of the messages is that they will receive these publications. And then I'm going to have to do some work in the field and go out and meet with some of the top realtors about the fact that they're going to receive them for free. Will we continue to give them for free as we go forward? Most of our resort partners, most of our hospitality partners are writing a significant check in order to get their copies for their guests. And I think it's likely that as we go forward, I will expect the realtors that benefit greatly from this publication to join with the publishing partners and write a check to help make this happen. But in the first year, it'll be free.
Well, you may get a number of requests from realtors who hand it to prospects, and that could be very expensive. I'm thinking about the annual edition.
Well, the annual edition is also it's accessible digitally, and it's a smashing version of the magazine in that you actually can turn the pages. It fills your screen. It's very beautiful to look at, and I think the digital version of it is something that realtors would love to embed in their communication to clients that have called them, contacted them about coming to Rancho Mirage, setting up an appointment, and they can respond and include the magazine in their communication back to those prospective clients. So there's lots of ways for us to use the printed version and the digital version to not only save money, but get information out about our city.
Thank you.
Robert, I just wanted to thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing. Yeah. But also I wanted to make mention, of course, of the things that you've provided to meet the highest standards of the Americans with Disabilities Act. You focused beautifully on making sure that everyone has good access to our website, and we want to be friendly to everyone, and thank you again for paying particular attention to that.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's important that we all understand that in order to access the website, if you have a special need, you must have software on your equipment that works to access the ADA aspects of our website. But I understand that that's a well-known issue in the world of disability. So I have not yet tested it, but I intend to do. I'm going to see what that looks like soon before we launch it. But I guarantee you it'll work, and we can be proud of it.
Thank you.
Dana, any comments, questions?
No, I share everybody's attitude, though, that I think it's a super project and a super job, and it'll be a vast improvement as we move forward. And thank you and all of your staff who have worked so hard on it.
Well, thank you, Council Member, and I want to thank the Marketing and Tourism Subcommittee, Special Events Subcommittee with his Council Member Hobart and Council Member Mayor Pro Tem Smotrich, who have gone through this process with us, have seen it as we've gone forward, and have been very supportive of our work. And so I really appreciate your support of our efforts.
Robert, over the next few weeks, you'll be finalizing the website, so if anybody has any comments, they should come to you and discuss those issues. And
that's absolutely right. And also, you can go to a department, and there's a contact person in every single department and division who's very alert to all the changes and wants to hear everybody's comments. People are very engaged in this process, but I would be delighted to hear, but there are many other people on the team who want to hear about their pages.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here today, and the products that you rolled out are first class, and look forward to the actual copy when we see it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
This is a receive and file item, so we'll now move on to the next item for the City Council. And this is item number 8, the consideration of a resolution authorizing the expenditure of funds for widening Ramon Road. And Bruce Harry, Director of Public Works, will discuss this. Bruce?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Well, I'm delighted to present to you today another grant opportunity for us to possibly build some capital improvements in the city. Staff is requesting the City Council authorize staff to apply for grant funding through the Riverside County Transportation Commission. It's called for new projects. In late June of this year, the commission notified Riverside County as well as all Riverside County cities that $151 million of federal and local funds would be made available for local transportation projects on a competitive application basis. City staff reviewed several potential transportation projects in the city here, and we concluded that the project improving Ramon Road between the Railroad Bridge and Los Alamos Drive, which is adjacent to the new Section 30 that was just recently annexed into the city, would be a perfect project and a good applicant for this grant call. In addition, the property owner of that portion of Section 13 had previously met with the city staff to inquire as to what assistance, if available, to help them fund the required improvements adjacent to their property. The most critical requirement of the grant application is to commit the required local match. Staff had several meetings with the property owner to determine if the property owner was interested and willing to fund the required local match of around $314,000, which would be needed for this grant application for a project that totaled about $900,000. The applicant, in return, would receive about a $600,000 improvement grant to do these improvements for the $314,000 investment. The local match will fund both the grant's required match as well as all costs associated with design and environmental studies. The property owner, by way of a written letter of confirmation and commitment, informed city staff that they would fund the required local match and fund all preliminary engineering and environmental costs. Staff informed the property owner that if this goes forward as planned, the property owner would be eligible for a credit for the transportation component of the development impact fee as a result of their commitment. The credit will be available at the time of building permit issuance on the subject property. The grant application must be submitted by no later than Monday, September 23rd, which is this coming Monday, a week from today. Staff requests that the City Council adopt the attached resolution as submitted. This ends my staff presentation, and I'm available for comments or questions.
Thank you, Bruce. Any questions of Bruce? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to question this item? Seeing none, we'll go back for a motion, please.
Move adoption of the resolution authorizing an expenditure of local matching funds for the widening of Ramon Road westbound from 600 feet east of Bob Hope Drive to Los Alamos Road through the Riverside County Transportation Commission's multi-funding call for projects.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. And the motion carries 5-0. We'll now move on to item number 10, since we've already done item number 9, and this is the award of a contract for replacement of the city maintenance yard warehouse roof. And we're going to have Bill Oppenheim, who is the Facilities and Fleet Maintenance Manager, discuss this item. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor Kite. Mayor and council members, since you approved recently on item 9 the installation of solar panels at the city yard and of course here at the city hall, we now have to make sure that we have a roof to hold the solar panels. The building we were talking about, if you remember Randy showing the picture, was in the far left corner of the city yard. The current roof on that building is about 15 years old, and it's a rolled material roof. The solar panels will require we'll have at least 60 panels on that roof, and it'll require penetrations of the roof. The process we'll be using is our solar company will put the penetrations in first, and then we'll have a contractor come back and put in a polyurethane roof to fill around the penetrations and seal the roof. We've requested from a contractor a 20-year life roof, So the roof should hopefully outlast the solar panels. In front of you in the staff report, you'll notice that we're talking about a 20-year roof. We've had proposals from several contractors. We selected Western Pacific staff from Building and Safety, and my own staff evaluated the items that they proposed, and we determined that they were the best fit for what we needed. They've also worked with solar companies in the past years in coordinating this process to ensure that we have an adequate roof for the future. We've requested a $20,710 funds adjustments. We've actually asked for $23,000 in the license tax to cover the roof replacement. This includes a 10% contingency for any unforeseen damages on the roof that we're not aware of. That is our report for this time.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Is there anybody on the council who has questions of Bill?
Was this an ROP, a request for proposal, or FP?
We went out for informal, because of the cost, we were able to go out for informal proposals, and we went to 3 different companies. I actually requested from 4, but one did not respond to us.
Oh, did Castro Roofing respond?
Yes, they responded, but they did not include we requested, they wanted additional costs for removing the equipment that's on the roof currently. We have water coolers, we have turbine fans and other equipment on the roof, and with an additional cost to remove and reinstall those. They did not want to give one inclusive price. We weren't comfortable with their proposal or their experience working with the solar companies.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Any other questions? Okay, any questions from the audience? Seeing none, we'll move back to the council. And questions or a motion, please.
I'll make a motion the City Council award the subject contract to Western Pacific Roofing Corporation in the amount of $20,710, plus an additional 10% contingency to cover any unforeseen or unexpected roofing conditions, and approve a full year 13-14 license tax fund budget adjustment in the amount of $23,000 to fund the roof replacement project.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Councilmember Hobart, could you show your vote? Thank you.
Motion carries 5-0. Now move on to item number 11, which is to request the direction regarding a potential lighting system upgrade in the City Council chambers. And this will be discussed by Sarah Stapleton, the Information Services Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As outlined in the staff report, concern has been raised regarding the quality and consistency of lighting in the council chambers, particularly that the dais is not evenly lit. To give you an example, I'd like our videographer, Josh Holsclaw, to switch between a few camera shots. You'll see, for example, that I'm sitting here in a shadow, whereas the center of the dais is fairly bright and well lit. Also, for our in-person viewing audience, the screens are a little bit washed out. So, Josh, if you could switch to, here you go. You can see again, I'm sitting here in a shadow, and up on the screen, I'm quite significantly darker. So, it's difficult for our in-house viewing audience to see. Another area of concern is the required maintenance for the track lighting that we have up here. Typically, our facility staff bring in a 16-foot tall ladder to replace light bulbs before each meeting. Because the meeting this week is on a Monday, they didn't have that opportunity, and you can see we do have a few out. It looks like maybe 3 lights are out. Due to some of these concerns, staff reached out to various audiovisual firms and requested some proposals for improving this situation. Some of the areas that we particularly wanted to address were properly lighting the dais and presentation area, maintaining the aesthetics of the council chamber, providing low heat bulbs, providing non-glaring bulbs, positioning the bulb so that the projected images up here on the screens are also not dulled, and providing ease of maintenance for our facilities staff. Staff reviewed various proposals, and we agreed that a particular firm, Audio Visions, fully recognized the requirements and provided a concept that would meet the lighting needs here in the council chamber. If the council deems it appropriate, we would like to proceed with a design services with Audio Visions in the amount of $4,750, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions? Staff?
I had just a couple.
Scott?
Sarah, I'm just kind of looking at the track lighting right now and wondering, is part of the problem just that we don't have, a silly question. Is part of the problem because we just don't have any lights pointing on the sides of the days? I mean, can we either readjust those or just add some more track lights? I'm wondering if we're making a mountain out of a molehill.
We can add more lights. We would kind of, we've been kind of holding back until we decide which direction the council is going to go. These lights are halogen lights. They have a tendency to burn out quickly. We've added more. We did add some lights from what we initially had, but it is very feasible to add additional lights. But one of the things we have to be careful about when adding the track lights is we don't want to wash out the screens, the projection screens. That's very sensitive. If we have lights coming down, if all of a sudden you see streaks across the presentation screens.
I'm just wondering if this is a want versus a need.
I think
I've never really
we
thought
all
it's a big
agree the
problem.
lighting is inadequate, but the question is, what can we do and guarantee the improvement where it seems to go up and down during the council meeting? Any questions, comments?
I have some
Daniel?
comments, but I'll wait after you're done with the public session.
Okay. Iris? Okay. Questions down here? Okay. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll return to the council. Dana?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. The issue of lighting here was initially raised by Jay Jenkins, our videographer for our meetings for many years. And I understand, I called Jay after I read this staff report. I called him to see if he had had any input on this. He knew nothing about it. In the second paragraph, it says a concern had been expressed regarding the quality of production. Jay's the one who initially made that concern public, and the fact that he has not been brought into this loop makes us somewhat deficient. Secondly, with respect to the proposals, Ford Audio shouldn't be part of our sampling of proposals, except under requests for proposals that go out to many people. They installed our initial lighting back in 2000, and according to many, that was a very unsatisfactory job. They just more recently, in the last year, sold us some cameras that were outdated 6 months later and couldn't be modified. I don't think they qualify at all. Plus, their proposal requires that the city perform an itemized list of work that we have to do to assist them. And I think that when we hire somebody, that we should hire somebody who is going to do the job properly and not have us be involved, because first off, it interferes with responsibility. If the city has done part of it, that gives them an opportunity to say, well, it's the city's fault because they didn't hang the pipe to the ceiling properly, or add or remove track lighting properly, or whatever. At any rate, I don't think they should be used. Spintar, we don't know a thing about them. Nothing. We're not communicated at all about them, who they are, where they are. I asked Jay if he knew the company. He did not. And then Audio Visions, wherever they are, whoever they are, I have no idea, because we're not told in this staff report. And then to say, for staff to say they recommend audio visions with cost to be determined is something totally unacceptable to me. We want to know the costs before we recommend, and we have no idea what their costs would be. So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, what I think is the appropriate thing here, I asked Mr. Jenkins of Palm Springs Video whether his company would be able to make an assessment of our needs, which he said he's already done and has done some time ago, but he'll do it again using whatever prior information he has, and make recommendations, ask him if he could make recommendations of companies. He said he knows of 2 or 3 that he thinks are excellent. And by the way, Jay Jenkins is the one that brought in the exhibition at the library. I'm not exactly sure how to describe what it was, but they brought in the video and audio project that was tremendously important and done supremely well between them, and I think Dustin over there may have had something to do with it. But what I asked Jay if he would accept that assignment of doing the analysis and doing the recommending of somebody. He said he would. I asked him what he would charge for it. He said he wouldn't charge anything for it. Notwithstanding that, I would move that we give this assignment, as just indicated, that is to assess and recommend to Palm Springs Video and offer them $2,500, thus saving us $2,250. That's my motion. I made a motion, but nobody wants to second it. They don't. Oh.
Okay, there's a second. Before we vote, Sarah, could you give us kind of a feedback on some of the questions that Dana had, and also discuss the whole issue of cost?
Sure. There were a number of issues raised, and I think they're all very valid points, and I appreciate you taking the time to consider all these factors. I'd be happy to provide you copies of the entire proposals that go over the background of each firm so that you might feel more confident in their qualifications. I do have copies of all of those, and that's not a problem.
Well, it's not their qualifications. I mean, it's not here now. Okay. I know that Jay Jenkins has excellent qualifications, and so that's adequate for me. I mean, you don't care, I'm assuming, who makes the recommendations as long as it's somebody qualified. And we don't want to get into authorizing in advance the cost for doing a project on an open-ended basis like that.
Right. It certainly would not be an open-ended basis. What we were hoping to do was have Audio Visions bring in their lighting expert who's a certified lighting person. That's all this person's done for 30 years is lights, and they are experts. And they would design a system that we would then bring back for your consideration with the price tag and everything included. And we would have the option, if we wanted to have a firm do the entire project, that would be fine. If the city would rather have city take care of certain aspects, that would also be fine. That would be at your discretion.
I'm not sure that I could understand everything you said, sir, and I apologize. Okay. But my feeling is we should just move forward on the basis of the motion that I made.
Sarah, have you had communications with Jay Jenkins regarding the work that was requested here?
No, I have not. I'm not familiar with any kind of lighting proposals that he may have done in the past. I have not seen anything like that.
Okay. Yes, Scott.
I'm just wondering, Bill or Sarah, can you tell me how much do each of these lights cost that you plug into the track lighting system that we have right now?
We pay about $100 for the light and fixture. Okay. For both the bulb replacement is about $10, $12 for replacing a bulb. Got it. Right now, some of the ones that are burning out quickly, I'm working with the manufacturer, and they're replacing them under warranty. We're trying to find out why they're burning out so quickly.
Good, but the warranties are. So my question is, I would not be in favor of spending any taxpayer dollars until we throw up a couple more track lights and see if that solves the problem. Because quite honestly, I think the center of the days is lit just fine. I mean, I'm looking at myself in the screen here, and I think it's fine. So clearly, I've got the right light on me. I'm just I just don't see a problem. We're not a CNN studio that has to have HD resolution lighting, and I feel that what we have right now is quite adequate to communicate the information of our meetings to the public, both here in the auditorium as well as at home. And before we spend a bunch of money on design studies, can we not spend like $200 and throw up 2 more bulbs that goes to the side of the days and see what that looks like first and then decide? I just think we're jumping the gun and trying to fix something that maybe doesn't need to be broken. And I don't think I would support any resolution right now until we try a self-help fix.
Ted, did you have a question?
In response, did you call him Ted? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. You didn't.
I'd say in response to that, Jay Jenkins, who's been living in this thing, in this room since 2000, he, like I said, he said he would do it for nothing. If 2,000 or 2,500 or whatever my motion was is too much, I'd say let's give him $1,000 to analyze it. And he's got more knowledge than all of us put together on this subject. He ought to be able to come up with, as you say, recommendations. Maybe it just takes more lights, and it can be done with another string of them. I don't know. But in reading the staff report, I was under the impression that we have modern issues that we hadn't discussed before. We're now producing material from here and elsewhere that goes into our television station and television site. Whether that adds complication or not, I don't know. But I would think that Jay would know. And let's move forward with this thing. This has been an issue for a long time. Anyway, my
staff report says a concern has been expressed regarding the quality and consistency of lighting.
That was by Jay Jenkins, and he expressed it at least 2 years ago to me, and I assume to staff. I don't know who to. Well, I've been hearing it for a long time.
I don't know, Jay. I just disagree with him. I think the lighting's fine. We just probably need to throw up a couple more and highlight the sides of the days. I don't get it.
Iris, do you have any comment? Okay, you're happy with the way it is?
I would like to see a little bit of improvement only on the sides where it's possibly needed. But I'm familiar with Jay Jenkins, and I found him to be someone that I would feel very trustworthy of.
Well, has Jay said that he would do this, Dana?
Yes, he told me he would do it for nothing.
Okay. What if we use your motion to have him study the system and then pay him for his time if we do the project that he recommends rather than paying up front?
It's fine. He said he would do it for nothing, so I'll buy that. And I would modify my motion to so indicate that he not be paid $2,500 until such time as whatever recommendations he has are adopted.
Right. Sir, are you okay with setting something up with Jay and having a meeting with him to...
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. Would it be appropriate to release an RFP and ask for any number of lighting experts, and we could determine who might be the best fit?
Isn't that what you've done here? I mean,
well, we had staff analyze discussions with various vendors and proposals. We didn't release an RFP at this time, but perhaps that would be an approach that maybe would make everyone happy. We could get lighting experts in here to respond to our requests.
Okay, I kind of thought what we had here were the lighting experts' recommendations.
Yeah, so did I.
So now we're going back and we're saying we're going to do that again?
I suppose it would be a different approach. What we did was solicit various audiovisual firms to come in, and it was more an informal. This would be a formal RFP, opposed to just selecting a person here we're familiar with.
How do you feel about going ahead with Dana's motion, getting Jay to give us some input, and then we can sit down and evaluate it? And at the same time, maybe Bill can work on Scott's issue about just getting some new lights in there. It cost us a few $100, but at the same time, we can have Jay look at it and get back to us.
I suppose that would be a reasonable approach. I do think there are many lighting experts out there, and I would want to ensure that we have the most qualified person.
I agree with you, and we haven't had much luck up to now, have we? So, okay, any other comments here? So there's a motion on the floor right now to sign a contract with Jay Jenkins to review the current lighting system and that the cost be zero.
The cost be zero unless we accept some recommendation of his, and then we'll pay him. I mean, I just make it $1,000. It's not $2,500. I just picked out of the air, but we'll pay him $1,000.
Okay, based on his recommendation and whether we utilize his work.
Right.
Okay.
So the recommendation is going to be to direct the city manager to retain the services of Jay Jenkins to conduct a lighting analysis for us, and he shall be paid up to $1,000 if you accept his recommendation?
Yes.
Jay, I can see your head over there. Raise your hand if this is okay with you. Okay.
That's Josh Holsclaw.
Oh,
Jay
Josh.
Jenkins is no longer on contract with the city.
He's on another assignment.
Okay. Sorry, Josh. Don't raise your hand.
Take it back down.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Would you please vote?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, to interrupt. If I could add one more thing maybe to that motion, is this will require a budget adjustment, so whether you would like to do it now or later when you accept his, we accept his changes.
We'll do a mid-year.
We haven't spent it yet.
Sure.
Let's do a mid-year budget adjustment.
How about the light bulbs?
They're going to work on the light bulbs regardless. Okay. All right, so would you please vote? Okay, the motion carries 5-0. Sarah, if you would contact him immediately, and maybe he can get back to us by our October 3rd meeting. Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to item number 12, which is under the successor agency, and this to adopt a resolution approving and adopted a recognized obligation payment schedule. And I say, are you going to take this one on?
Yes, I am, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, this item is for your role as the successor agency. The recommendation here is that the City Council, acting as successor agency to the former Rancho Mirage redevelopment agency, adopt the attached resolution approving and adopting the recognized obligation payment schedule and administrative budget for ROPS 1314B pursuant to Assembly Bills 26X1 and 1484. As you've seen in the past, it's that time of the year again where every 6 months we have to adopt a resolution approving the ROP schedule. That ROP schedule, after approval by the successor agency, then gets carried forward to the Oversight Board and the Department of Finance for final approval. This is all pursuant to basically AB 26X1 and then subsequently amended by AB 1484. The attached ROPS to the staff report is for the period of January 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2014, and is due to the Department of Finance by October 1st, 2013. On page 12-2 of your agenda packet, staff tried to highlight some of the key items that were on this ROPS cycle. So I will summarize those now. ROPS 1314B includes approximately $30 million in projects to be funded with excess bond proceeds, of which $17.4 million is estimated to be expended during the January through June 2014 period. The 2013 bond redemption and refunding plan has not been finalized. Therefore, the debt service amounts listed on ROPS 1314B are the current debt service amounts, assuming no redemption and refunding plan. The attached resolution authorizes staff to update ROPS 1314B for any updated amounts resulting from the 2013 bond redemption and refunding plan. Essentially, after it's approved today, if we have more relevant information before the Oversight Board meeting, we will be able to update the ROPS schedule for the Oversight Board. And then lastly, the creating of a reserve for fiscal year 14-15 debt service. This is a requirement of our bond indentures. I will quickly change over to page 12-8. And this is a copy of the ROP schedule that you are approving today. So page 12-8 is really the summary page of the ROPS. It gives you the total amounts for the various funding streams and the amount of RPTTF that we would be requesting to satisfy obligations of the former redevelopment agency. On the next page, 12-9, this is simply a mechanism to track really balances and unspent money of the successor agency. So you'll see that we list the bond proceeds here. Any other revenue or income the successor agency gets, this common example and really the only revenue at this point is interest income. And also it tracks how you did with the last ROP cycle of what we estimated and the money that we received based off those estimates and what we actually paid. The next page is page 12-10, and this goes through to 12-12, and this is the actual listing of the obligations that we're going to be paying during the next 6-month period. So as you looked at that, again, the major change was the addition of all the projects funded with bond proceeds of the successor agency. On page 12-13, this is the prior ROPS true-up process where we list through and list what was given to us and what we actually spent. Basically, they don't want you accruing money that you're not spending is the purpose of this slide. On 12-14 is additional comments for the users of the schedule. Primarily, these comments are geared towards the Department of Finance. It gives additional information that they should consider when the Department of Finance reviews this schedule. So at this time, staff recommends the approval of the attached resolution, and this item will be presented to the Oversight Board at its September 24th meeting, and staff is available for questions.
Thank you. Any questions of Isaiah? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to question all this detailed minutia? Okay, nobody in the audience, so we'll come back to the council. And if there's any questions, we'll take those. If not, a motion, please.
All right, I'll make a motion that the City Council, acting as successor agency to the former Rancho Mirage Redevelopment Agency, adopt the attached resolution approving and adopting the recognized obligation payment schedule and administrative budget for ROPS 13-14B pursuant to Assembly Bills 26X1 and 1484.
Thank you, Ted. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Please vote. And the motion carries 5-0. And now for the City Council and successor agency, we have a resolution to approve and adopt the joint resolution approving the execution of the excess bond proceeds, expenditure, et cetera, et cetera. And Isaiah, you're back on the hook here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. So now that we are in this really new phase of the ROPS era, and so staff really ran into some difficulties dealing with the ROPS schedule because it's a schedule that's mandated by the state, and they tell you how to fill it out and what you can put on there. So now that we're entering this new phase of being able to list new items on our ROPS, we really had some questions, and we proposed those to DOF. And so this expenditure and reimbursement agreement is basically to formalize the relationship between the city and the successor agency when it deals with bond-funded projects. So Health and Safety Code Section 34191.4C allows any successor agency to a former redevelopment agency that has received a finding of completion to use bond proceeds issued prior to 2011 for the purpose for which the bonds were sold. In the case of the Rancho Mirage successor agency, all bond proceeds are from pre-2011 bonds, and we received our finding of completion on May 7th, 2013. And really what you saw prior to this point, prior to receiving a finding of completion, is all items that were on a ROPS schedule were from previous existing contracts and agreements at the date or before the dissolution date of January 31st, 2012. So you couldn't list anything new on your ROPS. It had to already be in place prior to the dissolution date. ROPS 1314A was the first ROPS that was approved by the successor agency, by the oversight board, and by the Department of Finance that had new projects. And my partner in crime in all of this, our Development Services Director, Kurt Watts, who has been a really good resource during this whole process. He and I attended a training or a kind of meeting that was attended by two DOF representatives, and it was hosted by Assemblyman Perez. And so our questions really revolved around, now that we're in this new era of being able to put new contracts on a ROP schedule, you know, before you can put a contract on, you got to go get the project approved, and then you can do the design, and then you can enter into new contracts for construction. So there's multiple stages that you have to meet in just the practicality of running a project that really the ROP schedule was not designed to handle. So at this meeting where DOF attended, basically we inquired about new projects that are approved on the ROPS that are going to be funded with excess bond proceeds as to whether it was acceptable for the city to act as the project manager and enter into new contracts and agreements for the ROPS approved projects and basically seek reimbursement from the successor agency bond proceeds for any costs associated with those projects. To DOF, staff really expressed the concern that if everything had to flow through the successor agency and oversight board, that this would really create a laborious process that would really essentially require double approval on everything, because they already approved the project and then they would have to go back and reapprove every little detail of that project, which really wasn't the design or the intent of setting up an oversight board. So we asked the question if it would be acceptable from DOF's review standpoint if this was the process that we established. So on July 31st, we received a response from DOF, which I attached it to the staff report so you can read the response for yourself. And basically, they responded affirming that this would be an acceptable approach, and they gave certain recommendations. So the first recommendation, if we were going to use this approach, was on the ROPS schedule that the city be identified as the payee on the ROPS. And the second was to enter into a reimbursement agreement to formalize this process. So following consultation with the city attorney's office, staff concluded that the city has properly covered itself from potential risk by having all new projects approved on a ROPS with the city listed as the payee, having the attached expenditure and reimbursement agreement in place, and by receiving oversight board and DOF approval of the attached agreement. Having this attached agreement in place will allow for better project control, since city staff would be the one managing these agreements anyways, and more timely completion by not requiring double approval of the items that an oversight board and the Department of Finance had already approved. With that, the recommendation here is to adopt the joint resolution that is the expenditure and reimbursement agreement that you have, and staff is available for questions.
Thanks, Isaiah. You know, I have never seen anybody so excited about ROPS and DOFs and whatever else out there.
This is good
Great,
stuff.
isn't it?
It is.
Okay. All right. Any questions of our illustrious financial leader down there?
Is he sincere?
He is.
Of course.
Of course. Is there anybody in the audience who either understands this or would like to get up and say a few words on it? I don't see any, so can I have a motion, please, from the council?
Okay. I will move that the council adopt the joint resolution number 2013 SA and 2013 of the City Council of the City of Rancho Mirage, acting as the successor agency to the former Rancho Mirage Redevelopment Agency, and the City Council of the City of Rancho Mirage approving the execution of the excess bond proceeds expenditure and reimbursement agreement, subject to approval of the Oversight Board and subject to future compliance with requirements of Health and Safety Code Sections 33445 and 33679.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Please vote. And the motion carries 5-0, and Isaiah, and I'm sorry for not taking this as serious as I should, because we should. Okay, the last item is for the Housing Authority and the successor agency. Item number 14, to approve and adopt a joint resolution approving the execution of the excess bond proceeds expenditure and reimbursement agreement. And Isaiah, you want to do this one?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This item is the same exact item, only this is for the Housing Authority, and between the Housing Authority and the successor agency versus the last agreement was between the city and the successor agency. And really the difference is depending on the type of project. So this reimbursement agreement would be applicable for any housing project that we do. Again, the same facts kind of flow through this presentation, where the Housing Authority would be placed as the payee on the ROPS. So this is the same exact agreement, just in place for the Housing Authority for those Housing Authority approved projects as well. And I would, before I conclude, just like to take a second to also thank the City Attorney's Office, who put a lot of time and is a great resource for me. So this is all really new stuff, which was kind of evident when we asked the Department of Finance these questions, and they didn't have answers at that time, and they had to go back to their group and get answers to these questions. So this is new stuff. I think we're kind of on the front end of it, and I appreciate all the work by the City Attorney's Office and his staff, and just being there as a great resource for me.
And let me say that we are fortunate to have you doing this work for us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any questions or comments of the Finance Director? Anybody in the audience? Seeing none in the audience, can we have a motion, please?
Guess I can take this one. I'll make a motion that we adopt and approve joint resolution number 2013 SA next in line and 2013 next in line of the City Council and the City of Rancho Mirage acting as the successor agency to the former Rancho Mirage Redevelopment Agency and the Board of Directors of the Rancho Mirage Housing Authority, approving the execution of the excess bond proceeds expenditure and reimbursement agreement, subject to approval of the Oversight Board and subject to future compliance with requirements of Health and Safety Code Sections 33445 and 33679.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Please vote. Okay, and the motion carries 5-0. And Isaiah, you're done for the day, I think. Good job. We'll now move on to the item number 15, which was the urgency item. Request for $5,000 in funding for the arts program at Rancho Mirage High School. And Steve?
Actually, Councilmember Hines' item.
Scott?
I think maybe it might be appropriate just to bring David Green up and let him speak to us.
Okay.
He's been patiently awaiting our enthralling city government meeting today. Thank you, David. And why don't you tell us a little bit about how this request has come about and why it's an urgency item?
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Kite. Thank you, City Council, for having me here today. I brought a colorful handout for later. I am the Executive Director of the American Foundation for Arts Education, which is a 501c3 located here in Rancho Mirage. Our mission on a national level is to work to restore the arts to our nation's public schools and ensure an arts education for every child in America. In the short term, we have partnered with the City of Palm Springs, the Palm Springs Unified School District, to create a program at Rancho Mirage High School that is called Musical Theater University. And the intention of this program is to provide an arts education free of charge for young people grades 8 through 13, first year of college, from throughout the Coachella Valley, selected by audition. And it's an after-school program that we begin tomorrow afternoon with 60 young people representing about 20 different schools throughout the valley, 3 days a week at Rancho Mirage High School. My background for the last 20 years was creating such programs and actually mentoring the careers of Broadway and Hollywood actors. And pleased to announce I have about 3 Tony nominees under my belt and several people that are starring in television series. And what we're trying to do is create the same opportunity here for the young people of the Valley who have those kinds of aspirations. The faculty are all Broadway and Hollywood professionals, some of which have moved or retired to the Valley, and some of which will be coming in from Orange and LA counties to teach the young people. Our performance outlet for these young people, we're creating something very exciting in the city of Rancho Mirage called Desert Cities Music Theater. And so the performance outlet for these young people, so it's an internship opportunity for them, is that instead of doing traditional high school musicals, they will do productions with Broadway and Hollywood stars in the headlining roles, as well as local adult professionals playing all of the adult roles, to give them not only a new professional theater outlet at the new Helene Galen Center for the Arts in Rancho Mirage, but also an opportunity for these young people to experience professional training working side by professional actors. The foundation is committed to raising the funds locally through the course of this year. We're doing a major fundraising gala on November 23rd at the high school. We also have some anticipated donations. However, they have, because we signed the partnership agreement with the City of Palm Springs in May, and I've been spending the summer when everyone is out of town working on these donations, some of the donations that were anticipated to come through in time are a couple of weeks away. So what I'm asking the city is if you would be willing to bet on us a little bit and extend us a $5,000 donation that would help us insure the cost of our couple of weeks of instruction, paying our instructors, so until these anticipated donations come through. So,
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any questions?
Just a couple. David, your other funding sources, have you reached out to the Pinnacle Fund, for example, as this is part of
the Pinnacle Fund is raising money independently of our organization to support the general performing arts program at Rancho Mirage High School. We will be working in tandem in a couple of events through the course of the year, but right now we're independently raising our funds.
So for that reason, they are unable to bridge this gap?
Correct.
And that's why you're here talking with us
Correct.
today. Are you willing to do a loan program of some type
Absolutely.
in anticipation of your gala and return the money to the city of Rancho Mirage?
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is really a cash flow issue for you right
Correct.
now. And the folks that are teaching would likely not show up for work if they didn't think they were going to get
They probably
paid.
would show up, but in good conscience, I'd like not to ask them of that. Yeah.
And are the students who participate, are these affluent students? Are these low-income students? What is the makeup of them?
I would tell you that what I know now is probably about 75% of the young people, if accepted into the program, would certainly not be able to afford tuition for our program or private lessons of any kind. The exciting thing here is I'm a 2-year Rancho Mirage resident. I'm a 20-year weekender, and doing some programs up here. I had. The talent level that we've been auditioning over the course of the summer is the Matthew Morrisons and the Stephanie Block, some of my alumni that have made successful careers, but they don't have the opportunity for this kind of training to give them the leg up. So that's what we're looking to do.
So if your gala is November 23rd,
yes.
Do you think by January 1st you would have been able to process the money raised and return this to the city if we were to do a short-term loan with you? Thank you.
Ted, do you have a comment?
I'll wait till the council comments.
Okay. Iris, do you have a question?
I think you answered my question, which was going to be what Scott had asked about whether or not this was going to be a loan or a donation. And I think that if we know that it's going to be a loan, we can handle it in such a manner rather than a donation. So I would leave it up to the rest of the council to make whatever determination and how they want to use the language and create whatever kind of commitment we want.
Steve, can you address the issue of making a loan from city funds?
Yes, that's really fairly simple. Just do a short-term loan. I just need to know whether there's going to be interest, but it's fairly easy. He may have some comments about the budget issue. Guess that's not an issue then.
What is the security or guarantee of a loan? I'll say that again. What is the security or guarantee that the loan will be repaid? And perhaps, rather than the city doing it, perhaps a group of individuals could collaborate with the young man and do it.
Well, let me say this. I'm somewhat uncomfortable the city getting into the lending business for this kind of a situation. That's really not our business. We're not a bank. We're not a loan company. I'm not disputing the fact that this might not be a very worthwhile cause. But I just don't think that's our purview, is to get into the financing of this sort of a situation. And I appreciate your position. It's unfortunate, but I, as a council member, don't like to have these kinds of issues thrust upon us at the last minute either. And most of the things we get, we want to take under consideration. So those are the two areas in which I'm struggling with at the moment.
Have you approached Palm Springs High School District?
Well, we're receiving in kind in our partnership agreement with the facilities come from the Palm Springs Unified School District, and we'll be raising the monies to support the staffing and all of that.
Have you asked them for a loan?
No, and actually, I had come forward. I'd be willing to accept and grateful for any help you could get. I was actually approaching the city for a donation toward the project because I think what we're developing is what will be another jewel in the crown of the city, embracing our young people and creating some wonderful opportunities to showcase the city through the young people that are involved in the program.
So, can you discuss just a brief amount more about the funding that you'll have in the future?
Well, we'll be raising money on several tiers. We're just like any nonprofit. We've got some grant applications underway. We are looking for individual and corporate sponsoring locally. We're raising the money locally for this program, and then we're doing our fundraising gala in November.
How much has been raised so far?
The anticipated donation will be $20,000.
Actually, how much though has been received so far?
We've so far raised about $2,500.
Okay, and how long have you been doing this?
For about 60 days.
Okay.
So.
And that you just signed the partnership agreement with the school district right at the beginning of the summer.
At the end of the school year, yeah.
So ambitious to launch an after-school program, which I applaud. I think that this is important because this is our high school that's just starting to launch in Rancho Mirage, and one of the features of this high school that we often brag about as council members is the arts program that is there. One of the biggest patrons of our city, Helene Galen, has stepped up to fund the Performing Arts Center, which is now being made available as an in-kind donation to this group. And after-school programs these days, with arts being cut from the curriculum, is about the only chance that a lot of these children will have to experience the arts. So it is very much part of our city brand. It's part of our mantra to promote the arts within our city, and I feel that this would be a very good use of funds. I'm with you, Ted. We're not a bank, and I want to dissuade the pattern or trend that this could create, which I know is forefront of your mind, and I'm with you on that. But I think that this should be an exception because this is our hometown high school and our hometown kids, which is a new thing for Rancho Mirage in many ways. And I strongly think we should support this either with a donation or a loan. But given some of the financial tightening that we've had this next year, if this group in good faith was willing to accept a loan situation. I think that would alleviate some of our finance department's concerns about these types of donations. And with that, I'd like to make a motion that we give a loan to this foundation to be paid back January 1st and made to this group interest-free.
I'd like to make a comment before there's a second on the motion. What I'm struggling with, and of course what you're aware of, is that we have just gone through a period where we have accepted applications for grants for various charitable endeavors. And certainly the high school is one of the ones that are very close to our hearts, and we're all very proud of the Galen Arts Center. As a matter of fact, we're all looking forward to the opening and naming of it in the coming months. It's a very exciting period. But during this period where we have accepted applications, as quickly as several days after the termination date that we were accepting applications, several came in. I mean, and I'm not talking about weeks, I'm talking about days. And we had to take a position that the application was not in on time, and we had to have some cutoff period in order to make a proper allocation. Mayor Pro Tem Smotrich and myself anguished over this, because here were people that submitted an application, and yet we truly couldn't accept it at the expense of others that had gotten theirs in on time. And here's a situation where, frankly, as justifiable as this cause may be, how do we now deal with those other people whose applications we turned down within several days after we had done our allocations, and now, 3 weeks later, turn around and say, okay, our rules have changed. We're now about to grant additional monies. From a personal standpoint, I really have problems with that. And I have a hard time for all of those people that we've turned down now that will hear us and look at this and say, gee, if we did it for him, why couldn't we do it for us? Can we come in next week also and plead our case as well? That's where we're at, and that's why I'm struggling. So
I think you've raised an awesome point, actually, Ted. And in fact, I think in a roundabout way, maybe you've peeled back a solution to this particular situation that hadn't not occurred to me. The fact is that when the Mayor Pro Tem and I last year redid the requirements for the SAF funds, which is what you're referring to, we carved out a percentage of those funds that have already been budgeted now as discretionary, and specifically earmarked that percentage of the funds which have not been allotted and will not be allotted in the SAF funds that were turned in an application. And we carved out a percentage of that money that was set aside for groups who needed to apply for urgency or emergency funds after the deadline for those SAF applications. And that, I think, is probably the distinction that may be able to rest your mind, that for people who just flat out blew the deadline, that's different than this situation. These folks were counting on a contribution coming in, a $20,000 contribution you mentioned, that has just been delayed by a few weeks. That is sort of the definition of what we had set aside those additional funds for in the SAF budget, was for groups who had unanticipated consequences. Similar in many ways to the CASA situation last year, where a federal funding happened mid-year that it was slashed. So perhaps we would be able to take this request and group it into that category. Those funds are already budgeted. This meets in many ways the definition of it. It also falls into the arts category that we've set aside for SAF. So with that, I would withdraw my motion that was just made and instead substitute a motion that we use the discretionary money set aside for urgency items that meet the qualifications of SAF, which I believe this does, and instead make a $5,000 grant to this organization out of the discretionary SAF money.
I appreciate your position, Scott, and that indeed very well may be the case. I still struggle with the fact that this is sort of a 12 o'clock request and the clock is ticking and we've got 1 second to make a decision. I don't like that sort of thing. I don't like it in business. I don't like it in public affairs. I recognize that this is an urgency because you now have your back against the wall because you're not getting funding that you had anticipated. So that's really where I'm coming from. It's in no way does it disparage what very well may be a worthwhile cause. It's the process that I struggle with.
Okay, maybe we can come to some sort of an agreement here, a compromise. There's no second on that motion yet. But maybe we could, I really hate giving loans, especially for something like this. I think we could reasonably give $1,000 out of that fund that Scott just talked about. I'm sure it's not the amount that you need, but I think it's probably more reasonable based on the way Ted feels and the way the SAF committee has handled in the past. So I could support $1,000 being a gift or donation rather than a loan. Don't have to pay it back. So I don't know whether that helps you at all.
I have no objections to that.
Is that your motion?
Yes, my motion would be to give $1,000 and have it come out of the excess SAF funding.
Point of order, Mayor. I have a motion on the table for $5,000, so I would be willing to amend that motion to reflect the $1,000 suggestion that you just made.
All right, so there's a motion and Ira seconded. Any other comments?
Well, I just want to make one comment. I share every view that Ted has expressed. Dislike this urgency of the last minute. Has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with the organization. I'm sure I would contribute to it if I got enough information about your organization. But we never saw you before. We don't know anything about your organization. To talk in terms of making a loan to somebody who you've never seen, see no papers about, have no idea about the ability to repay, is something that we would probably be the only bank in the world to make such a loan. To give $1,000 is another subject, but I still feel like it's an under-the-gun thing, and I don't like it, but I will go along with what my colleagues go along with. But I can just say this is not a way to do business.
Can I ask a question? Kim, aren't there policies in place for that extra $50,000 that's outside the SAF?
With no notice, no ideas of anything?
Right. I mean, don't you, maybe it's a question for the SAF subcommittee. Aren't there policies and procedures in place for spending that money, for considering proposals?
Well, in the past, we have had people who've come up to the podium and asked and request funds, and we have managed to find a few dollars here and there. And this is why we have the additional funding for the discretionary fund. And it's always, in my experience, has been given on the spot when someone has come up and requested it. If it's someone that we know, someone that we feel confident with, and an organization that we know is very reputable.
Okay, I think one other important issue is we should have some proof or indication that you are a tax-free organization and that you meet our requirements as far as that's concerned. Okay, any other comments here?
No, I would only go along with your recommendation, but I would ask that an application be filled out by the individual, should that be the case, that there would be the necessary verification of the 501c3 status before any transaction is completed.
And I would add that as a as an amendment. I think it should be accepted as an amendment to the motion and with a comma at the end of where Ted left off, to the satisfaction of the SAF committee. So they have to say, yes, this is adequate, sufficient to meet the requirements imposed at this council meeting.
And I will say this in all deference to Councilman Hines, that if indeed the requisite documentation is done, there will not be a delay as far as the issuance of the funds are concerned.
Great. I really appreciate that. Thanks, Councilman.
We should be able to turn this around tonight, like tomorrow, at the latest.
Great. Okay, let's vote on this issue. We have a motion and a second. Would you please vote? And the motion carries 5-0, and we wish you all the luck in your new venture.
Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you all up at the theater at Rancho Mirage High School and supporting your kids. Thank you very much.
We'll look forward to it.
Steve. Okay. All right, that is the last item for the evening, and the meeting is adjourned. Next meeting will be October 3rd, back on our regular schedule.